Do do do. Ah do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. Ah do do do. Let me just grab that link. I wish this was automated. It'd make my life a lot frickin' easier. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Chat with me. Ah, poopy. Come on, work. Work, work, work. There we go. Okay then. Now we're getting a little bit of somewhere. Okay, got that part done. I got that part done. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. That's not what I wanted. Why is this not working? It's very irritating. Okay. Hello, Blaze. At this point, we were just waiting. At this point, we were just waiting for other people to show up, which should be in about 7 minutes. Looks like I might have possibly destroyed my audience again by not being here last week. Weird how that just keeps happening. Very strange, very strange. Rockefeller123. I'm assuming you changed your name. How's it going, Rockefeller123? Who did you used to be before you changed your screen name? Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. Man. High five for life. Consistency shall set you free. Well, if you say so. Hi, Nick Neal. How's it going? Oh. There we go. Oh. Oh. Hello, BitCloud Gaming. How's it going? I can't talk today. I apologize. I am getting over illness. I am getting over illness. It was Juggernauts. Ah. Were you getting tired of getting confused with McJuggernuggets? Hi, Clean Frame. How's it going? There's a YouTuber by the name of RJC Media who's trying to go for the full North American PS2 set. Your thought? Well, best of luck to him. That's an awful big set. I mean, I only have like one row of PS2 back right there. PS5, PS4, PS3, PS2. 8th did that over the week because he decided he needed more room for movies, and so he kept all the games that he considers his specifically and started bringing everything else down here. So now I'm almost out of shelf space, and he has lots of shelf space. So you know what that means? That means when the bonus money comes, I'm going to have to buy some more shelves and start putting shelves in my guest room back there that currently just has a dresser, a TV, and a college cot, college bed. Just, because I don't sleep in a bed, so that room serves no purpose right now. So I just keep it that way in case somebody wants to spend the night. But now I'm going to have to start putting shelves in there to store more of the collection because we're running out of space. I mean, we have like over 2,500 games at this point. And I mean, it wouldn't be so. Part of it is because of the way this room is set up. With the stairs the way they are, I couldn't have put a third set of shelves where the arcade cabinet is anyway. The only thing I can do to make more room would be to stop using my bedroom as a guest room and just turn it into my office. And then move all of this into there. And then I would be able to fit at least 2 more sets of shelves in here. It's getting nuts, y'all. It's getting nuts. Anyway, we'll get started in another 2 minutes here. So this is the real Juggernaut. Okay. Rockefeller. Same here. Good to see you. Hope everything is well. I'll get into that in a minute. Would you like to meet Happy Console Gamer? He used to show up in the chat of the 7thCast every so often. And he'd, donate a couple of bucks. Hey, how's it going? But, he hasn't done that in a long time. So, but, I think he's cool. I'd like to meet him, sure. But I don't think he's ever going to come down to Retropalooza, so it's highly unlikely. No more smoking or vaping. Dude, I quit vaping almost like a year and a half ago. I've discussed this. Where have you been? I quit smoking around 2012, somewhere around in 2012. Switched to vaping, and then I quit vaping when I moved into this house because, that was $100 more a month that'd be coming in instead of going out to vaping and vaping stuff. You missed the buzz. You missed a lot, apparently, which is weird because you're here almost every week. What's the matter with you? I'm 51 years old. I'm not supposed to have a better memory than you, man. Favorite TMNT game? The original arcade game. The original arcade game. Favorite James Bond actor? Pierce Brosnan. Although only for the first couple. The farther they got along, the more they started to feel like the Roger Moore movies, where you had a base on the moon, you had a base underwater with, a shark tank and all that crap. GoldenEye felt more realistic. I liked GoldenEye a lot. We'll get into that. In fact, we're going to get into it right now. It is Saturday, 6 p.m., January 31st, 2026, and this is the 7thCast. As always, I'm your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is off doing 8 things with 8th dog, and so I am in here by my lonesome. And I am sorry that I haven't been around. I just got hit by a bunch of things. And I know this month has been a shit month. And I've let down the paid members because I didn't get the videos out as promised. I'm still kind of disappointed with the Discord. You guys that are paid members aren't showing up in the Discord. You haven't sent me your Discord ID, so I haven't been able to send invites to everybody. So the Discord is dead, and I was really wanting the Discord to take off so we could chat and have movie nights once a month for the paid members and all that. And y'all ain't sending me your membership, so I'm kind of disappointed about that. But I haven't gotten my videos uploaded for January. January's just been a bust. Because coming out of January 1st, I was sick with some pretty bad stomach problems. Started to come out of that, and then the ice storm hit. And with the ice storm, we didn't have any pipes burst or anything like that. Our power didn't go out, but our internet was spotty as shit. And this house is not the easiest to keep warm. Upstairs is fine. Upstairs is absolutely fine. 8th had zero problems because heat rises. He's on the 2nd floor. This room, as you can see in the back there, is a slanted ceiling. It goes all the way up to the top there, so it gets like 17 or 18 feet tall. And so, the heater from the furnace, the heater can be on all day long. All that heat will continue to rise trying to heat this whole room, and so it stays cold in here. So I was like dressed in double sweatpants, double shirts, a sweat jacket, a hoodie, a beanie, and a baseball cap, wrapped up in blankets in that recliner, and I was still cold because the heater just wasn't heating this room. Now I could go into the bathroom. I could go into the bathroom down there, the little half bath, nice and toasty warm. I could go into the master bathroom off of my unused bedroom, toasty warm. But in here, where all of my stuff is, and I do all of my work and my gaming and everything else, cold as shit. And yes, in case you hadn't noticed, I still have not taken down my Christmas tree. It's almost February. February is tomorrow, and I still haven't taken down my Christmas tree because I have stayed true 8 years ago, episode 68. I'm still a lazy fat effer. What can I say? Anyway, coming out of the ice storm, took several days for all of that to thaw out. During all that, my car battery died. 8th had to charge that back up. Luckily, we kept both of our cars in the garage. We were smart enough to not leave them out in the driveway. But still, my battery died. I had to have him charge it up. We have a tire inflator, a battery charger. We have all sorts of goodies out in the garage for such emergencies. But then, he goes back to school. He had gone back to school because the school year had started back up, and promptly brings home the flu. And guess who catches it? Moi. Just started getting over it the day before yesterday. Missed a day and a half of work this week. And so all of that compounded into me not being here last weekend and still not getting any videos up. And I still don't feel 100%, but I wasn't going to miss 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, I've still got a tickle in my throat that I'm semi-successful at keeping that at bay, but yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough, and so I'm hoping to make it up to y'all next month. But that's where I've been. Haven't bought any new games or anything like that to speak of. 8th bought the digital version of Code Vein 2 because he couldn't find a physical one. But other than that, I did have it lined up to. I had that remake of Dragon Quest VII pre-ordered, but then all of a sudden the arrival date jumped from the middle of March to this coming Friday, and I'm like, I'm not going to be paid yet this coming Friday, and so I had to cancel my pre-order. So I'm hoping there'll still be some left by the time I can afford to actually buy it, because I really wanted to play that one, but I haven't bought anything new other than that. I've bought a couple of cheap Blu-rays for my movie collection. I got I got Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2. So there's that, I'll probably watch those once every 4 years or so. But I'm not a huge fan of Smokey and the Bandit, but I get a hankering to watch them every now and again, just every so often. Mainly because, aside from the racism, Buford T. Justice makes me think of my dad at the end of his police career, because he had gone bald. He had big, he had this big bushy mustache, which of course Buford doesn't have that. He has a little pencil mustache, but he had developed this big gut, So with the exception of the color of his uniform, my dad looked like Buford T. Justice at the end, right before he retired. And I used to kid him about that. And so, I'd call him Buford T. Justice, and he'd look at me and he'd say, "There's no way you came from my loins." So he'd play along with it. He thought it was funny. But anyway, that's what's been going on with me, and I'm still not 100%. My stomach is certainly not 100%. It's been rough. It's been rough. And high five for life. I wish I was still vaping, because you know what? When I was vaping, I never got sinus infections. I never caught the flu. I didn't catch COVID. Is what it is. I thought I had COVID one time, but it ended up just being a bad sinus infection. But yeah, I just didn't get sick nearly as often when I was vaping or smoking. Now that I'm not vaping or smoking, if Eighth comes home with any kind of respiratory thing, I'm guaranteed to catch it. No matter how far away he stays from me, I still catch it. But it didn't happen when I was, because my lungs were coated with that stuff, so it never could catch hold. You see, nicotine shall give you immunity. Hi, Ben. Okay, so I answered the storm question. I'm 31 and my memory is shot. That's terrible. I blame the green on my poor memory. Okay, well, I didn't know you had Discord. Well, the Discord is only for, the Discord is private. It's only for paid members. So you either got, you got to pay $3 a month and then you're able to get into it. And that gets you access to the entire remaining library of my old 7th level console war videos, and which there's plenty of that in there, hours and hours of stuff in there for you to watch. And of course, once we have enough members that are actually participating in there, that gets you access to a monthly, a once a month party where I'm going to try to figure out how we can all sit and watch a movie together. So yeah, but I'm not going to start that until there's enough, there's at least a good handful of paid members that are in the Discord. I've got a handful of members now, and I would do it now, but there's only like 2 or 3 of them that have given me their Discord IDs. So if you want to be able to have the movie watching party once a month, you need to get me your Discord IDs. Those of you who have bought memberships. What is the worst episode of Breaking Bad? For me, it was the one with the fly. It's been so long since I've watched Breaking Bad, I don't even remember, man. I marathoned it. I didn't watch it once a week. I waited till the thing was over and I watched the whole thing. The downside to that is when you marathon a show, you don't tend to remember all the episodes as well. Isn't that weird? All I need to keep warm is fluffy socks on my feet, and then I'm fine. Not me. And you would think with all this extra blubber I'm carrying around that I wouldn't get cold, but that ain't true. Ain't true. Nicotine shall give. Like I said, I wish I could afford. If I could afford to keep vaping, I'd still be vaping right now, because I didn't have any negative side effects to it. I didn't. It never did anything negative to me. I didn't have like a vapor's cough or any of that kind of stuff. You know, I'd still be doing it right now if I could afford it, but I can't afford it. I was paying like $100 a month to vape because I'd go through four 120 milliliter bottles of vape juice a month. I could go through an entire 120 milliliter bottle in 1 week. And then, of course, I'd go through, like a pack of the little coils. I go through a pack of those a month. So you add that up together, and it was like $100 a month. Not cheap. Maybe you should change that, Mang, but it's on change what? Maybe I should change what? You didn't specify. I've mentioned a lot of things. Hi, Chris G. How's it going? So anyway, as a reminder, in case there's new people in here, this is a 3-hour podcast. It can be expanded by donations. $50 in donations gets an extra hour. $100 in donations gets 2 hours, and $150 in donations gets a whopping three extra hours for a absolute soul destroying 6-hour stream. Doesn't happen very often, but it's not unheard of. Oh, the Discord. Maybe I should change. What, you want every. Look, man, when I made it to where everyone could get in the Discord, still no one signed up. So I might as well make it to where only people that are members get access to it. Now there's two different tiers. There's a 99-cent tier, and there's a $2.99 tier. Now I could make it to where the 99-cent tier also gets membership to Discord, but I would still keep the movie party to people that paid the $2.99, because you have to have perks for the better tier. So maybe I'll do that. But I'm not, it's not going to make a difference if people don't sign up to become members. So, it is what it is. I've got people that are signed up members now that have not sent me their Discord IDs. And that's just wrong, man. That's just wrong. So anyway, I don't really have any set topics to discuss this weekend because nothing's really going on. I don't have a whole lot in the way of gaming to talk about because I haven't had any new games to play. And I haven't been out to see any movies. Eighth went to see the new Silent Hill. He said it was terrible. And he went to see Markiplier's Iron Lung movie and said it was amazing. He didn't take me to see either one of them with him. I don't even remember the last time I stepped foot in a theater or what it was I went to see. Nowadays he mostly goes by himself or with his friends. So I don't remember what him and I went to see last. It was before Christmas, I know that. Well before Christmas. But there's just not a lot been going on in 7th Land. I've been sick. Sick. Stomach is still all tore up. It's aging, baby. I'm starting to show my age now. I'm starting to feel my age now. I still don't have wrinkles, but I am starting to experience the gravity now. Those gravity will slowly pull your face downward like this, and so now my upper lip is longer than it used to be. So you'll notice that with older men, the top of their mustache starts to get taller and taller and taller, and it's because their lip is being pulled down by gravity. So my lip is now longer, hence my top part of my mustache is longer. It used to be like this, now it's all the way up here. And then your ears get caught by gravity, and so your ears start to get longer and longer like this. But the first thing that goes is the upper lip, and then everything else starts to follow it. So I'm starting to finally look as old as I feel. I mean, even if I dye this, it doesn't change the fact that this lip is longer than it used to be. Now you can kind of trim from the top down, but then you just have this empty space up here, so you start to look like you're trying to look like Walt Disney or some shit. Male aging, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? You beat Mafia 2 since the last 7thCast. Really liked it. Not sure if I should play 3. I have 3. I have not played 3. So I couldn't tell you. 8th played a little bit of it, but I have not. But yeah, 8th has completely redesigned everything upstairs. This room above me, the loft, used to be game room number 2. He decided he didn't like that, so he swapped game room number 2 and his office. So now the loft is now his office, and largest bedroom back there at the top of the hallway is now game room number 2, which is a smaller room than the loft. But he says he likes it that way, and I told him, second floor is his house. Do what he wants with it. So that's what he wanted to do. But what it resulted in is him not having as much room for games on his shelves. So he decided he was only going to keep the games that A, he considered actually his, and B, stuff that he was actually playing, and C, the handheld games, because collecting for the handheld is his thing that he does at conventions, and that everything else was coming back down here. And that's why that shelf behind me looks different, because he brought almost all of the PS2, almost all of the PS3, and he also brought all of the Xbox, all of the Xbox 360, all of the Xbox One/X, all of the Wii and all the Wii U down here, and all of that ended up going on the retro shelf because I didn't have anywhere else to put it. So now I have almost no room for more stuff, and he's going to be bringing more stuff down here because he's going to be bringing more PS4 and more PS5 down here. And that's why I'm going to end up having to buy at least one more set of shelves that's going to have to go in the guest room, so that I can take all the stuff that he's brought down here and put it in there, so I still have room for expanding my my NES cart collection. Not that I've been buying any. I haven't bought any NES carts since June. My local GameStop wants $90 for Mind's Eye. What? Hold on a minute. You just hold on a minute. That don't sound right. You just hold on. Hold on to what you got. Oh, wait a minute. According to GameEye, a complete in-box copy of Mind's Eye is worth $20. So I don't know what's going on at GameStop, but I mean, it's right there. $20. Mind's Eye. And the GameEye, as I understand it, gets its prices from price charting. So, but let's be sure, huh? Price chart. Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye for Xbox Series X, $20. Mind's Eye for PlayStation 5, $17.95. Mind's Eye with Deluxe something or other, $30. There are no $90 copies of Mind's Eye on price charting. So somebody at your GameStop is a loony. Hi, AKL Max. How's it going, sir? Speaking of GameStop, do you think GameStop could go out of business? I'm surprised it hasn't already. Because there's just not that many, there's not as many people buying physical games as there used to be. And game companies are wise to that. And so they are making fewer physical copies. And so when there's fewer physical copies, that means there's fewer games being traded in. And GameStop makes the majority of its money off of selling used games at a markup. Well, if you have nobody that's trading anything in, what are you going to sell? The fact remains there is a good chunk of the gaming community who have given up and gone to full digital, so they have nothing to trade in. It is inevitable that GameStop is either going to become a video game toy store where you go to buy video game related toys and nothing else, or it's going to completely go out of business. Is what it is. Just is what it is, man. They also wanted $75 for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is 2 years old. I would say don't go to that GameStop anymore because something ain't right. Something ain't right. Because I can tell you right now, Spider-Man 2 ain't worth $70. It's not a rare. Poor the truth setting you free. He loved his physical trade-in penny, sir. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That's why he never had a library to speak of. Because he'd get done with stuff and he'd trade it in on the next thing he wanted to play. Or he'd rent. He'd rent games. That's why I called him a casual. Meanwhile, I have more games than I know what to do with as it is. When I get my bonus, I'm going to replace my TV because it's almost 10 years old. And I mean, it still works and everything, but it's got this weird thing that it does where it powers itself off and whatnot. And when I buy it, I'm going to buy me a set of speakers to go with it because I already have a receiver. I just need all the speakers. So I'm going to buy me a speaker set. I'm going to buy that TV. And then what's left of the bonus is going to, A, be held on to for emergencies in case things go to hell around here. And B, I forgot what B was going to be. See there? 50 is where it starts to all go downhill, folks. 50 is where it all starts to go downhill. Oh, B was it's going to fund Retropalooza in May. I'm not going to the one in March. I can't afford to go to 2. I can only go to 1, so I'm going to go to the big one. And that's going to be the one in DFW. If you hate Mind's Eye, boy, you'll hate Black Ops 7. It's mostly hallucinations and the false advertising. Well, nobody donated for me to buy Black Ops 7, so I haven't played it. I certainly wasn't going to you guys know me. I hate Call of Duty. I was not going to shell out $70 of my own money to play that game. Nobody showed any interest in me reviewing it by everyone, chipping in for me to buy it so I could review it, so I haven't played it. That's the way this channel works, folks. You donate enough money for me to buy crappy games, then I can go buy crappy games and do DBTSs. Otherwise, all you're going to get is occasional BTSs of me reviewing games I actually like, and y'all don't like those videos. Y'all like to see me shit on games. I need to get Adam D3Vs. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. What I really should be buying right now instead of NES games, even though that's my favorite to collect for, I ought to be buying more Saturn and PS1 games because I can install all of those on my Polymega. But then again, I've been failing on that too because I haven't been doing my retro streaming the way I should. Oh, badass. Well, I'm not talking about desktop speakers. I'm talking about surround sound. I'm going to buy a whole surround sound set to go over there with the new TV. And I'm thinking about also buying a standalone 4K Blu-ray player while they're still being made so that I'm putting less wear and tear on my PS5 Pro. Because right now, I've been watching a lot of movies on it. So putting a lot more wear and tear on that drive. I just had recently a PS4 Pro CD-ROM die on it. So yeah. Dolby Atmos for you, sir. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I've already got a receiver. I don't really want to buy another receiver. So, you know, it's 8th's old receiver. 8th decided he wanted a more retro sound, so he went back to using my receiver that's 30 years old. It's a Technics receiver that has Dolby Pro Logic 5-channel. And for some reason, he likes that receiver better than the Denon or whatever receiver that he has. So he gave me that receiver, and I don't even know what it does right now. But I'm gonna get a speaker system to go with it, and then I'll have an honest to goodness decent sound system down here, because for years all I've had is a Sony soundbar with a subwoofer because I went cheap. I also want, you know, I every year I talk about getting a jukebox, and I keep putting it off. Not because I have an actual need for a jukebox. I just want one because I've always wanted a game room that had a full-size jukebox in it, and I keep putting it off. I mean, really, it all depends on two things: how big my bonus is, and how much of it is going to go towards paying taxes. Because I never get tax refunds anymore. I always owe. So it depends on how much of my bonus has to go towards paying taxes. Last year it was like $2,000. I had to pay $2,000 in taxes. So my $7,000 bonus became a $5,000 bonus. And really it's a $10,000 bonus, but then the government takes like 38% of it. YouTube is looking to get rid of AI slop channels. The problem is its bots are confusing human channels to AI channels. It's affecting Warhammer 40K creators by a company named MarkScan Enforcement. Well, no one's tried to threaten me yet. Kind of hard to fake me, I guess. I don't know. You can get digital jukeboxes nowadays, hook it up to spot. No, I want an actual physical one. Not because I need one. I just like the way they look. I want an old-fashioned looking jukebox with the little bubbles and all that crap. Now, it doesn't have to be one of the ones that has, like, you know, a 50 record changer or any of that stuff in it, because the more moving parts, the more likely it is to break. You know, I want it to have at least the ability to play one record on a turntable, and I want it to have a CD player. Don't care if it has a radio in it, but it does need to have Bluetooth so I can then hook to my Spotify, yes. But I still want it to be full size and have those options in it and have the little bubbles. You know, I had that little $100 one that was like 2.5 foot tall, but that thing was tiny and it just looked cheap. I want a real jukebox. 8th has a record collection upstairs, vinyl collection, a lot of which are punk records that I've bought for him, and 80s hard rock records that I've bought for him. So I'm sure on occasion he would allow me to go upstairs and get Def Leppard Hysteria and bring it down here and put it on my jukebox. Do you know the saying, shit in one hand, wish in the other, and see which fills up fastest? Yeah, my dad invented that phrase. I'm kidding. You'd think that he did. He probably claimed that he did, because he used it a lot. I shouldn't have drank that so fast. I've still got 2.5 hours to go. Vinyl's been making a comeback, so to speak, for a long time. Which by that I mean it never really went away. It's just now Gen Z has decided that they're going to go retro because they've rejected everything that the millennials embraced, and so they're getting into physical media. You got Gen Z who are buying vinyl. They're collecting retro games, believe it or not. And that's one of the reasons why the prices are still going up instead of coming down, is because now Gen Z has discovered retro and they're going out and buying all these old carts and playing old video games instead of buying the new ones because they don't like the live service crap any more than us old asses do. And they're buying vinyl, they're collecting VHS, and they've decided, hey, we're nihilists. We don't care how long we live. Let's all smoke cigarettes. So now cigarettes are starting to jump back up in popularity, which I feel especially bad for them because they're all going to get throat and lung cancer. But hey, at least when I was doing it, it was only $4 a pack. Now they're paying $10 and $11 a pack. They're having to pay double what I paid to die. That's just horrible. They don't want the vape now. They don't want the stuff that, won't kill you. They want the stuff that'll kill you. They want those carcinogens, and they shall have them. Good Lord. What are your thoughts on the Black Bond versus Kid Smooth? I just think it's stupid. I think it's stupid. One, if you make a bet, you should pay it. That's just the way it is. Two, it's not like Bond actually needs the money, okay? You've seen his apartment. He has a job. It's not a great job, but he has a job. But, he's also a trust fund baby. Yeah, if he actually needs anything, like, he wants to go on a big expensive vacation to Japan, mommy and daddy are there for him. Meanwhile, he don't need $60 from Smooth. He's just making a big deal out of it because his channel is dead and he thinks that drama will boost his channel numbers. It is what it is. I'm not afraid to say what's really going on there because I never have when it comes to Bond. He knows how I operate. If he wants to really start some drama, he should start up his own Weapon Wheel style podcast and put me on it. Then you'd see some drama. But he ain't going to do that. I started smoking backwoods. It's $9 for 5 little cigars. Well, whose fault is that? I just got 13 on PC. Have you played it before? Yeah, I had it on PC back in the day. Do you think he'll actually dox Kid Smooth? I don't know. Don't care, really. He won't ask me to be on anything with him though. He won't. He'll ask that other guy. I can't remember his name now. That autistic guy that thinks he's me. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name now. But he used to be one of the guys that was on his Social Reject of the Year awards or whatever. Can't remember his name now. If he tries to get any white guy on his podcast, it'll be that dude. Problem with that guy is he has too much of the tism in him, and so he doesn't have the self-control and common sense that I do. So he doesn't know where the line should be drawn. and he just will constantly step over it, and he'll end up getting black bond demonetized and shit. That's all right though. That's all right. So with Gen Z embracing physical media, do you think there's a chance to save physical games? I don't know. That a lot of that is going to depend on the next couple of years of the market, because things are starting to feel a lot like they did in 1982 going into 83. And yes, I'm old enough to remember that. It's starting to feel like that. And so if Sony are smart, their PS6 is going to have a physical drive, because there are a lot of people that are turning away from digital right now. And if they don't keep up with the flow, there's a lot of strange things going on. I mean, there's layoffs happening left and right. You've got Microsoft going down in flames and have basically become Sega. They say they're going to bring out a new system, but they're not even supporting the one that they currently have out. In fact, they raised the price on it to try to make some of the money back on all of the unsold hardware out there that's just sitting on shelves. Who knows what's going to happen, folks? Do you think the gaming industry is going to learn anything from Expedition 33? How to make a game that's embraced like it's AAA, but on a AA budget? No. They're not going to learn anything from that. Back in the day, Sony put out both AAA and AA titles. They had big budget stuff, and then they had Ratchet and Clank, and they had Sly Cooper, and they had... Now, if it's not some big AAA banger or some live service game they're going to cancel almost immediately, they don't want to put any money behind it. And now it's to the point where it's caused Sony of Japan to lose trust in the Western studios that it put all of its money behind in the last 2 generations. But they gutted their Japanese studios. All they really have left is Team Asobi and Polyphony Digital. Which, by the way, Polyphony Digital is their biggest money earner, because who would have thunk it, but Gran Turismo makes more money for Sony than any other game that they release. And that includes Spider-Man. It's the truth. Look it up. It's the truth. That's their biggest money owner. And so, if Naughty Dog's next game, that Intergalactic or whatever the hell, if that game flops, and whatever next game Guerrilla is working on flops, it's very, very likely that you're going to see some of these studios shown the door. And Sony's wanting to go back to having more money invested in Japanese studios, because they're the ones really that are making the money right now. Western studios are flopping all over the place, but Japanese games are still making money. Hey, 7th, sorry I'm late. Had to spend some time with the Lord first. Okay. You, Bond, and Solid Rev... Ain't gonna happen. Solid Rev is still mad at me. I'm still blocked by Solid Rev. All because I made fun of him for getting all excited because an AI complimented him on his musculature. An AI complimented Solid Rev on his musculature, and he bragged about it on Twitter, and I made fun of him for getting excited over what an AI had to say about him, and he blocked me. And I haven't spoken to him since, when beforehand we were friendly. Second or third time he's blocked me over something that I said to him over Twitter. He's just gotten really sensitive in his middle age. I don't know what that's all about. He's really sensitive in his middle age. But anyway, there ain't no way that he would ever be on a podcast with me. Japan studio could have filled the gaps with their niche style of games. Well, if they had the right idea with the way Insomniac used to be. Insomniac was split into two teams, and one team would do their big budget Resistance stuff, and the other team was doing Ratchet and Clank. So you had a new game coming out from them every year from different studios. So one year you get Resistance, the next year you get Ratchet and Clank, and they could have done the same thing with Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch could have been making Infamous one year, Sly Cooper the next. Infamous one year, Sly Cooper the next. Guerrilla used to have two studios. And so they could have had it to where one year you got Horizon, one year you got Killzone. One year you got Horizon, one year you got Killzone. And just like lowered Killzone to where it was more of a AA thing. So it cost less to produce. And they could have just gone back and forth there. Naughty Dog could be doing, Last of Us slop one year, a new Jak and Daxter the next. Because Naughty Dog used to be two big teams. Druckmann ruined that. Don't have that no more. And Sony Santa Monica, when they're not working on their own thing, their other teams, instead of making AA games, are acting as assistants to the other studios. You'd be surprised how many other games out there, if you watch the credits, Sony Santa Monica, Sony Santa Monica, Sony Santa Monica, because they're just acting as support to when crunch is needed. Crap. And now, Sony bought that studio created by that woman that used to work for Ubisoft to do that heist payday rip-off looking live service game. You ain't heard nothing about it since. That studio, if Sony hasn't quietly shut that studio down already, it's coming. That's money they blew on nothing. The money they spent on Bungie hasn't earned them anything because they allowed Bungie to manage themselves, and Bungie is, shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly. And now you have Microsoft pulling a Sega and are putting all their games onto PlayStation now, which, what I tell y'all, 2009, baby, what I tell y'all. But, I told y'all they'd be the first ones to try to bring in an all-digital future and turn it into less of a console market and more of a subscription model market. That's what they did. And I told you they would be the first ones to go full third party out of the three that were remaining. And I was right on that one too. And so here they come, putting all their stuff on PlayStation. You got Fable coming this year, day and date. You got Halo coming this year. We already have Gears of War. I haven't played it. 8th has it upstairs. But we already have Gears of War on PS5. You got Avowed coming. And you know who you don't see being interviewed anymore? Phil Spencer. When's the last time you saw Phil Spencer giving some big interview about the bright future of Xbox? You don't see him no more, do you? Think about that. I remember seeing their logo when I played The Order 1886 and thought they co-developed it. Nope, they were just a backup support studio, because that's what they do that's what they do with their secondary team instead of making a AA game. Sony could have so many more games coming out than they do if they just stuck to the model they were using during the PS3 generation. That's why PS3 was always so stacked, because they were investing in having multiple teams per studio so that they were putting out both a AAA and a AA on a regular basis. not so much Sony Santa Monica, because Sony Santa Monica has been split always between making their game and supporting other teams. But they also they would invest a lot in third-party exclusivity for Japanese games. And that's why PS3 got so many more Japanese RPGs than Xbox 360 did. Like 3D Dot Game Heroes, for example, just the one that always comes to the top of my head. You're not seeing as much of that, although there are a lot of Japanese companies that ignore Xbox and they'll put their stuff out on PlayStation and Switch. And there are some that just choose to only publish to PlayStation, but it's not like it was during the PS3 era. It's just a mess, man. It's just a mess. Hey, 7th, I'm surprised you're still not exhausted from shoveling all that snow Texas got. Well, we didn't get snow, but we got ice. I mean, I did look out my window that morning, and you couldn't see the ground. It was all white, but it wasn't snow. It was an accumulation of like 1.5 inches of sleet. But, you know, we never lost power. I'll give Texas that credit. We did not lose power. There wasn't a single power line that went out anywhere near me. But, I mean, there were other areas that lost power. But I think that's because my house is on the same power grid as the biggest hospital here in town. In fact, my town is like the headquarters of the biggest medical company in Texas. And so, you know, I think all of their primary power is buried lines. And since I'm on that same grid, it makes it a lot less likely for us to lose power. Although, when that tornado came in and just wreaked havoc, yeah, we lost power then. But this neighborhood, there are no power poles. The lines are all buried underground. But then once you get out onto the street where those lines are fed from, then you see power lines. And the tornado tore a bunch of those right up out of the ground. So yeah, we were without power 4 or 5 days. It was pretty rough. That's why another thing I ought to do when I get my bonus is invest in a generator. But what I'm actually thinking of doing, there's a power company here in Texas that you give them like $1,100 and they install these big batteries on the side of your house that tie into your solar power, and they will charge up to 48 hours of electricity, so that if your power goes out, you've got enough electricity for 2 days to run your heat and your refrigerator, you know, the basics. So you won't be able to run your TV and all that, but your food won't go bad, and you'll have air conditioning, so you won't sweat or freeze to death. So I'm thinking about doing that. Looks like the console war generation is slowly but steadily on the way out. Well, we'll see. We'll see. As technology increases, I would say that PCs as we know it are on their way out too. A lot of this we're not going to know about anyway because of what's going on with the microchip market, the CPUs and the GPUs, because of all these data centers that are going up. You know, the rumor is that that Sony has put off the PS6 till like 2029 or possibly 2030, which is crazy, because that'll mean that this generation lasts longer than the PS3 generation did, and that one was 7 years. That was a 7-year-long generation, which was the longest we've had up to this point. Last time I checked, many Xbox gamers prefer FPS instead of Japanese games. I don't know if that demographic... Well, that's always kind of been that way. They've always been frag heads. I'm curious to see how that Fable is, considering that it was a racing game developer that made it. I am curious to see how that turns out. But, you know, here's the thing. No physical, no buy. 8th got Gears of War for Christmas because it was a physical release. Avowed has not had a physical release on PS5, so we have not bought it. The remake of Oblivion was a physical release, so we bought that. No physical release, no purchase. Period. And that goes for Fable, that goes for Halo, that goes for anything else they put out. If all they do is dump it on PSN, I'm not paying $50, $60, $70 for a digital game. Y'all can kiss my ass. Any interest in Save Me Sam Raimi or Iron Lung Markiplier? I will wait to see the new Sam Raimi movie. I'll wait to see that. Same thing with Iron Lung. 8th already went to see it. I only go to the movies if I'm going with 8th. I don't go to the movies by myself anymore. So, I guess the short answer would be no. I'll just wait until they're digital. And I'll watch them on digital. And if I like them on digital, then I'll buy the physical releases. Why is that last stream not saved? Because I decided that I had injected too much drama in it. And, I didn't want to cause any more animosity in the whole Game Chaser situation that's going on, so I just deleted it. No big secret. I just decided after the fact, you know what, I probably pushed a little too far on that. And so I just deleted it rather than have to worry about it. Looks like GTA 6 won't get a physical release until 2 weeks after launch. Oh, fun. Kudos to you for trying to preserve physical media. Hope the new generation follows suit. Well, that's why me and 8th have been buying up physical movies. The problem is I'll buy some obscure 80s thing that's on Blu-ray for like $8, and I'm like, this is a really great price. There's no way this will ever get released on 4K. Son of a bitch! I just bought Inner Space on Blu-ray a few weeks ago. It was $8. I was like, yay! A movie I like from the 80s I haven't seen in a long time. The quality looks just fine in 1080p. Hardly anyone remembers Inner Space. No one's going to release this on 4K. And then just this week, what does Arrow do? They announce Inner Space in 4K. And so now my OCD is going to be thinking, we could be upgrading right now. You could be spending that $30 to get that Arrow release. Good. Same thing. I bought Popeye, that musical that everyone hates, but I love. I bought Popeye on Blu-ray for $8. Disney wants to pretend that movie doesn't exist and never happened. So I thought, surely this is not one that a company is going to invest in remastering to 4K. And so I send a picture of it to Rob. I was like, look what I just picked up. And he's like, oh, wow, the 4K comes out this year. Oh. Damn it. It just... That pisses me off. That's why I'm kind of glad that there's been no talk of 8K physical releases. There's been no talk of that. And I'm fine with that. Let 4K be as good as physical ever gets. I'm fine with it. I just don't want to have to rebuy anything anymore. Because honestly, some of these movies, I don't think 4K does them a bit of good. I have Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in both 4K and Blu-ray. They look exactly alike. Because all of these drives that come out now, they do upscaling on them. And so, with the exception of any HDR that gets thrown in there, they look the frickin' same. You can set them side by side, and you don't see any big advance in clarity with some of these Blu-rays. It's only if you have an HDR, like OLED that really takes advantage of all that, where you'll see a difference between the 1080p and the 4K. Otherwise, it just looks like the same thing. That's why I haven't upgraded my Back to the Future trilogy. I still have the original Blu-ray set. Because some of these movies, these 80s movies that were filmed on 35 millimeter film, unless they're like, what you have the millions that Jim Cameron has to invest in AI to get rid of all the film grain, you're not going to see a huge difference between the 1080p and the 4K because all that film grain will still be there. But then when they do use AI to get rid of the film grain, it no longer looks like the movie anymore because it makes it look more like some kind of direct-to-video thing from the Asylum. The movie doesn't look like a movie anymore because it makes it look like it was filmed with a digital camera. Still waiting for the Die Hard series on 4K. I've got a bunch that I want to get. I want to get the Men in Black trilogy on 4K because, they only made 3 movies. They never made a 4th one. They only made 3. I want to get the original first 2 Superman movies with Christopher Reeve because they only made 2. They never made a 3rd or 4th one. They only made 2. I want to get those. I've already got Predator 1 and 2. So oddly, it's a 4-movie set, but they only made Predator 1 and 2. There is no Predators or The Predator. There's only 2 movies in that set, even though there's 4 movies in the set. I have that. I have the original Batman quadrilogy that only has 2 movies in it. I have the entire Rocky box set, which is actually 6 movies. 5.5. I've got the Matrix box set that only has the original trilogy because they never made a 4th one. I have that. My 4K collection is getting pretty decent. That being said, most of my anime is still either on DVD or Blu-ray because there's just not a tremendous amount of anime coming out in 4K. We have Akira in 4K, and I think that's the only anime we have in 4K because there's just not a tremendous amount of it coming out in that format. What was the last movie you saw? I don't even remember. Couldn't tell you. I mean, me and Eighth went to see something, but I don't remember what it was. I can remember we went to see Fantastic Four. We went to see, you know what? I think the last time him and me went to the theater together was Conjuring 4. I think that was the last movie because there wasn't anything that came out for Christmas season that I wanted to watch. Have you noticed that nobody makes Christmas movies anymore? You don't get no more Christmas Vacation or Christmas with the Cranks or the Santa Claus or none of that. You don't get big, fun family movies anymore, and you don't get big epics anymore. There was that period where instead of getting stuff like Christmas with the Cranks or Christmas Vacation or, Christmas comedies, instead of that, you were getting these big epic films like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter for 7 years. Because they didn't come out during the summer. They came out right in November of every year except for that last one. That don't happen no more. Now it feels like December has become a dumping ground where you're even getting horror movies in December. What is that all about? I mean, I can remember going to see even Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I went to see it at the theater. And sure, didn't have nothing to do with Christmas, but it had snow in it at least. So, I mean, I think there wasn't there some scenes that took place in winter? I don't know. But anyway, me and my cousin went to see that on Christmas Day at Hamilton Place Mall Theater in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We went to see it there. Had a good old time. It was fun. You don't see stuff like that no more. I mean, sure, the only companies that are putting that stuff out for Christmas like that are Christian companies. So, you had that movie about the Young Life of David, the CG movie, that came out. I have heard that that's an excellent movie. I have not seen it, but I have heard that it's really good. Who knows? I typically avoid those Christian movies because, I remember from back in the day when those Christian movies were crap. Like that whole series of end times rapture movies that, you know, oh, what the hell were those things called? Kirk Cameron was in one of them, and Kevin Sorbo was in one of them, and even frickin' Nicolas Cage was in one of them. And it's all about, the end times, and people get raptured up, and then there's the Antichrist, and his name is like, Constantine something or other because he's a European, which makes absolutely no sense because the only way that the world would trust that the Jews would embrace of the Antichrist as their Messiah was if he was indeed a Jew. So it makes no sense for it to be some white European politician, but that's what all these movies keep saying. Those were terrible. There was a movie back in the 90s that was called the Omega Code, which was there was this period back in the 90s where there was these people saying that the Bible was full of all these hidden codes, and they had created a program that would find these codes and translate them, and they were all prophecy. It was all bullshit. Then they made a sequel to that one that was called Megiddo, the Omega Code 2, and that's the one where Basil Expedition from frickin' Austin Powers played the Antichrist, and the President of the United States was played by Michael Biehn from Aliens. And so Michael Biehn is like, Michael Baine's like, you don't have a chance in hell of getting what you want. And Basil Expedition, the Antichrist, turns to him and says, I'll always have a chance in hell, David. I actually made a friend of mine go to the theater that because I knew it was going to be a shit show. They had a full-on CG Satan at one point with big old bat wings. I swear, he looked just like the main gargoyle in Disney's Gargoyles in CG. That's what the devil looked like. And it literally has a scene where he gets knocked somewhere and he kind of shakes it off. And he looks at his wrists, and his wrists are in chain. And he looks down and he's standing in lava. And he's like, no! It's the shittiest movie you ever saw. It's terrible. And so that's what I always thought about Christian cinema. But now you got ever since the whole The Chosen thing happened, you started having all these Christian movies that are making big bucks. And people are coming to me and saying, hey, you ought to actually watch it. It's not preachy and it's actually good. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, what a tangent that was. Meanwhile, dose. We have 2 hours remaining. 2 hours. There have been 0 donations because y'all don't love me no more. 0 donations. We are $50 away from extending the show by 1 hour. Let us continue, because I know I went on a bit of a rant there. There's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. Yeah, I haven't bothered to upgrade those either. No, wait, I'm lying. I bought 8th, the 4K box set that comes with 3 movies, the original 3 movies, and a blank disc or some other movie. It may be King Solomon's Mines. I don't know. Anyway, I just got Enter the Dragon 4K. I don't have that one physical. I have it digitally on Amazon because, I do have a lot of digital movies. I'm not going to lie about that because there was a period where I just kind of gave up with buying physical movies, and because I was thinking, I got to get up and I got to walk over to the shelf and I got to get it off the shelf and I got to put it in the drive, and then when I'm done with it, I got to take it out of the drive and I got to put it back on the shelf. Where I can just click on Amazon and click play, and so I went through this long period where all I was buying were digital movies. And so I have something like 600 or 800 digital movies in my Amazon Prime account. And I have Enter the Dragon on it, but I don't have it in 4K. I don't even have it in Blu-ray. What really pisses me off is that there are some movies out there that you cannot get on Blu-ray or 4K. You can only get them on old-ass DVD. Because at some point they might have had like a really limited Blu-ray release that's now over $100 or none at all. I'll give you two examples. One, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. I had to buy that on foreign DVD and import it over here because my PlayStation is region free and will play anything. Then Dutch, that movie with Ed O'Neill that plays Al Bundy. It's it's either Christopher Columbus or John Hughes. It's a comedy about a woman whose son is a rich brat, and her new boyfriend, who they make it out that he's a truck driver, played by Ed O'Neill, agrees to go pick him up from his rich-ass kid's school and bring him home for Thanksgiving, and all the drama that takes place there. And it's comedy, and it's great. And for whatever reason, it had a very limited Blu-ray release. It's well over $100, so the only thing I could get was regular old-ass DVD. And that pisses me off. But I love that movie. I love that movie with all my heart because it includes scenes from South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. It's either South Pittsburgh or it's Johnson City. It's one of the two, where we used to go and buy our fireworks every year for 4th of July. Anyway. No, it's not knowing. It was based on a whole series of Christian books. Hold on a second. Left Behind. Left Behind. They made a whole series of them that had like Kirk Cameron and some people in it, and then they started over with one that had Nicolas Cage, and then they started over again with Kevin Sorbo. So they've tried to make all of them multiple times. There's a whole long series of these books. None of the books are any good, by the way. And in them, the Antichrist is like, he's got some, his name is something like, Nikolai Carpathia or Nikolai, Constantine or some, very, very generic European name, And that's the thing that cracks me up about all these dumbass Christian end times movies is, the Antichrist is supposed to be embraced by the Jews to the point where they allow him to stand inside the temple and declare himself as God. The abomination of the desolation of abomination, or whatever it's called, that it's referenced to. And so the only way that the Jews would ever embrace a world leader as their Messiah is if he was indeed a Jew. So you're not going to have, some British dude that's white as white can be come up out of Parliament or be the new prime minister and whatnot and be the Antichrist. And that's been the damn case going all the way back to frickin' The Omen. It's always some white British dude, not Jewish. Doesn't make no sense. Anyway. Now, a lot of you say, but Seventh, some people say that the Revelations has already occurred, and it's about the Roman Emperor Nero, and he wasn't a Jew either. He's not so much as the Antichrist. That's where they start to get conflated between Antichrist and Beast. The Beast, and the number of his name, and his number is 666. Because you have the Beast and you have the Antichrist. Or you have the beast and the false prophet. It's just, that's why I think it's stupid. It's so convoluted and it can be interpreted in so many different ways. That's why I think it's stupid to try to make a movie out of it. And the dumbest one that I've ever watched was Megiddo, the Omega Code Part 2. Terrible. Terrible. But terrible in such a good way. It's so fun to watch. To see Michael Biehn going up against Basil Exposition. Or Exposition, sorry. Basil Exposition. What's a DVD? Oh, ha ha. They're making Passion of the Christ too. Also, The Chosen. I like The Chosen show. I like it a lot. I think they struck gold with that actor whose name I can never remember who plays Jesus. Uh, I think Mel Gibson is making a mistake with Passion of the Christ 2 because he recast. It's not going to have Jim Caviezel, and they could have easily just used de-aging tech on him to make him look the same as he did 20 years ago. But no, they recast it. They recast it, and I don't think people are going to go see it without Jim Caviezel playing Jesus in it. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't know how he managed to get funding for it without Jim Caviezel being in it. That's what's shocking the hell out of me. I remember as a kid, the History Channel always aired Apocalypse, Revelations, and cult documentaries after Christmas leading up to New. I think they still do, or at least their YouTube channels do. NVIDIA is backpedaling on OpenAI. #exposed. Okay. 7th, what do you do when your Blu-rays or DVDs get scratched? I tried toothpaste. That doesn't help at all. Well, I mean, you can try resurfacing stuff. The resurfacing tech, I've never been able to get those to work. So if it gets badly scratched up, I just buy another one. But if you're regularly getting Blu-rays or DVDs scratched, then, you're probably just a dipshit that doesn't know how to take proper care of their media. Just being honest with you. It's not that hard to avoid getting scratches on your discs. It's like you put it in the machine, you take it out of the machine, you put it back in the case. Don't leave it lying around. Don't have some big stack build up. You take it out of the case, put it back in the case. What do you think of the 7-6 meme? You mean the 6-7 meme? I don't think much of it. It's kind of stupid. Have you seen The Boys? Yes, I've seen The Boys. Fun fact. In fact, I see 2 of them every morning when I get up to take a piss. Fun fact, according to the Quran, the Mahdi, who is the Savior, matches the steps as the Antichrist of the Bible, and Jesus of the Quran matches. Yeah, I know. I've read all about that. It's on YouTube. Revelations of the End Days from History Channel, a found footage 2-parter about the apocalypse. The Antichrist is the president is pretty fun. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Did you know Neuralink in Greek alphabet comes out to... I'm sure it does. And also avoid touching the bottom of the... Yeah. Do you know how much stuff can be supposedly translated into the 666 number? You know how many times I've heard that shit over the course of my life? Adolf Hitler, 666. Vladimir Putin, 666. Over and over again. Mussolini, 666. I bet if you translated Cyberdyne, it'd be 666. Wait a minute. Magic powers. Anyway. Shit ain't wanting to let me go. It's not wanting to let me go. It's never going to let me go. I'm going to die. I'm going to be sick and I'm going to die. I'm just kidding. Are you caught up on Fallout Season 2? No, I'm not. I decided that I'm going to wait until all the episodes are on there before I start watching. $7 from Darkstar Angel. Thank you, Darkstar. I appreciate you. So we are now $43 short of the 1 hour extension. $43 short. Another thing we have to do is we have to buy up, we got to get more shelves for the tabletop gaming room, so we'll have room for more tabletop games. Because we've almost, we still got more than half a shelf for the modern stuff, but the retro shelf is already full up, and I still have several old school board games that I want to pick up. So, I don't think I got the, which one did I get the Battlestar Galactica one, but I didn't get the Buck Rogers one, or is it the other way around? I don't remember. It's been so long since I bought one, I don't remember what all's up there anymore. I'll have to go up and look. Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll just go look through my history and find what all I bought, because most of them I got off eBay. There was a few of them I found at thrift stores and stuff, but most of it I got off eBay. I know for a fact I got Fang Face though, because Fang Face was one that I actually had when I was a kid. It was given to me as a gift for participating in my cousin's wedding. I was the ring bearer at a whopping 7 years of age, so I had to get fitted for that uh, stupid white tuxedo I had to wear, and I had to carry the ring down on the little pillow and all that crap. And for putting up with all that shit, because it took months of preparation, and I had to go and do the practicing and all that. Boring ass shit. My mother should have never agreed to putting me through that crap. But she did. And so I had to go through all of that misery at 7 years of age. And what did they give me to thank me for it? Fang Face board game. When I was an only child, I had nobody to play board games with. Because when my cousins came over, they didn't want to play board games. Especially not board games of Fang Face. They want to play Dungeons and Dragons and crap like that. So yeah. $10 board game in thanks for putting up with months of hell. Appreciate you. Have you watched Landman yet? Nope. New state of play from Sony. They haven't shown anything in so long. It's because I got nothing to show. Everything they had in the pipe has been canceled. Zelda 40th anniversary. Hopefully they port Twilight Princess to Switch or Link in the Past remake. Thoughts on the casting choices for God of War? So far, I don't have any problems with it. Sprite or 7-Up? 7-Up. Pepsi or Coke? I could really go either way, but I'm going to say Pepsi because it's sweeter. Crush or Sunkissed? Crush. A&W or Mug? A&W. Although technically, I like Barks. My favorite is Barks, but between those two, I'd go A&W. I remember going through a wedding that I was bored to death in and had to add insult to injury. My phone would overheat and drain energy for no reason. That's like the ghosts of all the pissed off people that didn't want that wedding to happen, and they were draining the power out of your phone battery, so they were in hopes that they could manifest enough to scare the groom away. I guess my phone was trying to constantly connect to the internet. Nope. Ghosts. I prefer Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper was not on that list to select from, sir. I like Dr. Pepper too. 7th, do you watch 8-Bit Eric's content? Did you see the recent Nintendo fans going after him with that Tomodachi Life game? Poor dude. Yes, I watch 8-Bit Eric's content, but I didn't know that he was being assaulted by Nintendo fans. I hadn't seen any of that. I don't always catch his live streams, but I watch his videos. Cream soda style. Now, see, I'm not that big a fan of cream soda. For example, I tried out that new orange creamsicle flavor of Coke Zero, and I found myself eventually developing a taste for it, but for the most part, I didn't like it because it was kind of like orangey cough syrup. But I drank enough of it to where I developed a taste for it. You know what I wish they sold here in Texas? Cheerwine. I loved Cheerwine. I liked Cheerwine better than Dr. Pepper, but they don't sell it here. I'd have to order it and have it shipped here, which kind of sucks. Do you think with this next search coming up, we'll find MH370, the missing 777? I think that thing was obliterated into little tiny pieces. I think Russia shot it out of the sky and don't want to admit to it. And, it's lying in tiny little pieces that's too small for, submarines to find. Prime rib or New York steak? I'm a ribeye guy. Occasionally I like prime rib, but for me it's mostly ribeye. I like a nice 12-ounce ribeye. Every now and again I'll get prime rib. But mostly I'm a ribeye guy. Nor am I a fan of filet mignon. You don't get enough bang for your buck with old Fillet Mignon. Wash it down with some Don Perignon. Heard 8th moving around up there. You know what I just found out today? This is one of the things that I like about retro collecting is when you find out about a game that you've never seen before because it wasn't released in the States. I just found out today, thanks to YouTube, that there was a fully 3D Masters of the Universe He-Man God of War clone for PS2 that was only released in PAL regions. And that's why I've never seen it before. I mean, apparently it sucks, but that's still something that I would have bought up when PS2, even though I was an adult, because I used to love He-Man. Not as much as Transformers and G.I. Joe, but I did love He-Man. And that's something that I would have picked up if it had been released here in the States, whether it was good or not, just because it had He-Man on the cover. I would have bought it. And I had no idea that existed. I just found out about it today. Unfortunately, I don't have a region-free PS2, or I would buy it. Yes, I know that you can emulate PS2. It's very possible that I already have that PS2 game on my massive 13 terabyte emulation drive that I have hooked up to the PC, and I just don't know it because I haven't gone through the PS2 section. 8th sails the high seas when it comes to PS2 games that were never released in the States all the time. Like I bought him just so he could have it for his collection. I bought him the Berserk game that was released for PS2, and of course, none of our PS2s are region free. We don't have any modded PS2s that'll play it, so he just downloaded the ROM of it so he could play it on his PC. Well, I'm just saying that that MH370 that disappeared, it wouldn't be the first time that Russia had accidentally blown a passenger plane out of the sky. That's all I'm saying. It wouldn't be the first time. So that's what I suspect happened, is that Russia or somebody else misconstrued it as an enemy plane and blew it up. Ultra Steel, I don't have the tism. I know what you meant. Don't start annoying me again. Did you say PAL regions? What is that? Like Europe, the UK, that's what PAL region is. As for example, the Master System was region free. The Master System was way more popular over in the PAL regions, UK, Europe, than it was in the United States. So there's an absolute crap ton of Sega Master System games that you can play on your US Master System right now, but you have to buy the UK versions. You have to import them. Like for example, the Sega Master System version of Ninja Gaiden. It's a PAL release. I think Avengers might be okay. Tobey Maguire, Hugh Jackman, and Ryan Reynolds has me intrigued. Yeah, but the rumor is that Tobey Maguire gets killed in the opening scene. That you get to see Tobey Maguire long enough to see his whole universe destroyed, and he dies with his universe. That's the rumor that's going on. That's the rumor that's going around. That he's basically just like a 5-minute cameo, and you get to see him fighting whoever it is that's destroying these universes, and then his whole universe gets blown up with him in it. That's the rumor. So don't get too excited about Tobey Maguire being in it. Never played Pepsi Man on PS1. I played a ROM of it. Never played the original because, of course, wasn't released here in the States. How's they hanging? Short, shriveled, and to the left. You know how that is. arthritis is bothering me today, folks. For some reason, I'm starting to develop calluses all over my hands. Like right there. See all that white crusty in the corner of my hand and how it's like a darker color? That's a big ass callus that's formed in the corner of my hand there. I have no idea why. And then here, right there over that first knuckle, that's a big ass callus on my knuckle. And then if you look here in the webbing of my hand, on my left hand, the same thing's starting to happen. I'm starting to develop a callus along. I have no idea why. I have no idea why. It's not like I'm going out there, Enter the Dragon style and shoving my hands down into, hot gravel and whatnot to build calluses. I'm an IT guy. And yet I'm getting calluses on my hands like I'm out there, building houses all day. I don't know what's causing it. When you could drink soda, what was your favorite? I drank a lot of root beer and Dr. Pepper. I still drink soda now, but I drink the zero sugar stuff. But I only drink 1 glass of it a day. When I got kidney stones real bad, I was drinking like 6 cans of that a night, then going home from work and drinking more. So I was drinking like massive amounts of Coke Zero, and it started giving me kidney stones. And so I dropped it down to 1 can a day, and now I don't get kidney stones no more. Favorite pizza style, New York style. Like those big ass pieces where you can like fold them in half. And that's my favorite. Do you collect anything other than games or movies? Well, I have 3 guitars, so I guess that counts as a guitar collection, but I don't have room for more than that, really. And I don't have the money for that either. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I needed a new TV, I'd be spending $3,500 of my bonus to have my buddy Anthony at Lucky Dog build me a guitar. Because there's nothing in the world that that would make me prouder as a guitarist than to have my childhood friend build a guitar for me that was made specifically for me and my tastes and my playing style and what have you. But, his guitars are primo, top-of-the-line boutique guitars. Those don't come cheap. And, world's getting really expensive out there. So, I have 3 guitars. I can survive without a 4th. I got to have a good working TV, and that one's starting to go out, unfortunately. I got calluses in the same spots in my knuckles on both hands. Rough. I'd love to own a Master System, but it's really difficult. Master System ain't that hard to find. They're all over eBay. You can get you've got the Master System or the Master System 2. I'd like to have a Master System 2, but I only have the original model. And my original model, it only even turns on 75% of the time because the one that I bought ended up having water damage, and I didn't realize it. And so it works, but you have to turn it on and off a few times to get it to work. I probably should just have 8th take it apart and clean it and whatnot, try to make it a little bit more reliable. But that's one thing that I don't like about my Polymega is that it doesn't, I have a cartridge that Stone Age Gamers made that's basically a power-based converter where you could play Master System games on your Genesis. The Polymega doesn't support it. So I can't play Master System games on my Polymega, and that irritates me. Just as much as it irritates me that it'll support Saturn, and it'll support PS1, and it'll support Neo Geo CD, but it won't play Philips CDI, and it won't play 3DO. Why? Both of those systems are weaker than the Saturn or the PS1, so why can't it play those discs? Somebody at Polymega needs to answer some questions. Favorite toppings on pizza? I just like pepperoni. Pepperoni or meat lover. I used to love the Supreme that Pizza Hut had. That had green peppers and onions and all that. But nowadays, I just like meat lover. Why are Sydney Sweeney movies flopping? Not enough titty. People are feeling ripped off. They go to see her, no titty. It's that simple. Would you rather have free pizza forever or free ribeyes, man? I make my own pizza. I can't afford to breed my own cows. But I can make my own pizza. I'd free ribeyes for life. Shit. Which restaurant had your favorite food? Fast food or sit down? Sit down, it'd be a tie between Olive Garden and uh, Logan's Steakhouse. Used to love Logan's. There's no Logan's around here. The closest one's about 35 miles north of here, about half an hour drive in Waco. That's where my buddy Brian took me for my birthday. Took me and Eighth to have dinner at up there, and he bought me a ribeye. It was very, very good. Brian's top notch, man. You can't hope for a better friend than Brian. You heard that first from me. He's a good dude. I wish I got to see him more often, but in the line of work that he's in, it's very rare for him to be free enough to come hang out. And a lot of the time, when he comes over, we don't play video games or anything. We just end up sitting and talking. We just sit and talk and maybe watch a movie. Like the last time he came over, we watched a movie. I can't even remember what movie it was we watched. Oh, I remember. It was Sisu. He hadn't seen Sisu yet, so we watched Sisu. And he had the same reaction that my dad would have when ridiculous, totally unrealistic stuff would happen in the movie. My dad would be like, "Oh, give me a break." So, if my dad had been sitting there watching Sisu, he would have been all right with it right up until the point where the airplane crashes into the big puddle of mud and he comes crawling out. My dad would, "Oh, give me a break." Did you know most retro gaming stores will pay out the ass for CRT TV? Well, I only have one. I have a Sony Trinitron 19-inch. I'd like to have a 27-inch, but I'm happy with the one I got. Shady J gave me that TV. Shady J got Kingsley to give me that TV because Kingsley owed him a favor, and Jay wanted to do that to me for me as a favor. So he went to Kingsley and said, "Give 7th a Sony Trinitron." And he gave me this really nice 19 or 20-inch Trinitron. I'd like to have a 27-inch like I used to have. I used to have this great big black Sony Trinitron where you'd turn it on and you'd hear boom. It's a great big old thing, weighed like 200 pounds. I'd like to have one that big, but considering the amount of space I have, the 20-inch is just fine. And the picture on it, clear as a bell. It looks just like it's a brand new TV. It's sitting right back there. You can see it right there. There it is. Stick it up right there. And then right here, see that black thing right there? That black thing right there? I keep that right next to me. That's my Vectrex that Billy swore up and down that he did not give me. Send anonymously to my house. What future projects are you working on? Videos. I want to start doing more list videos, even though you guys don't watch them. I want to do more list videos, like my favorite Sega Genesis games, my favorite NES games, that kind of stuff. I want to start doing more of those, even though y'all don't watch them. I'm going to make them anyway. What movie has your favorite James Horner soundtrack? Mine is Glory. Krull. I love Krull. Amazing soundtrack. Love it. I could hum almost the whole thing to you. See? I know the whole thing in my head. I also like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which was also done by James Horner. which he actually ripped off for his soundtrack of Aliens. Yeah. If you listen to the part in Aliens where they're trying to escape from the power plant that's about to blow up, a lot of that is taken from the scene where Kirk is desperately trying to escape from the Genesis device before it blows up. And the whole fight scene between him and Khan in the nebula, all of that is almost completely lifted and put slightly changed into that ending scene in Aliens. It's fantastic. Cracks me up. Which reminds me, I picked up the 4K of True Lies, and I picked up the 4K of The Abyss. I did not pick up the 4K of Aliens. That's something I need to remedy. Because I love Aliens. I love that movie. I have it on Blu-ray. I have that quadrilogy set on Blu-ray they put out that has the first 4 movies. I have it. Rest in peace, Catherine O'Hara. I loved Catherine O'Hara. I thought she was hilarious. She was very genuinely sweet in the Home Alone movies. I thought she was great. Except for, the one thing that rang fake to me was in Home Alone 2, where she's talking to the cops. She's talking to the cops in the car, and she's like, "Oh, but not Kevin. He's so much braver and smarter than I am." I don't know who wrote that line, but no mother would ever admit that their 9-year-old or 10-year-old is smarter and braver than they are. No matter how much they love them, no mother is going to do that. It rang as fake. That's the only line out of those 2 movies that I don't get behind. Oh, but not Kevin. He's so much braver and smarter than I am. Bullshit. I haven't seen Sisu 2 yet. If you could go back in time, which video game generation would you replay? PS2. So many PS2 games I never got to play. The biggest my PS2 collection has ever been is a little over 100. Back then and now. And there's thousands of PS2 games that I never got to play. So it'd definitely be PS2. Top 5 hack and slash games. I could do that, but it would be a top 7. Remember, Top 5 Friday is a Shady J thing. That's not a 7th thing. So for me, it'd be top 7. New leadership in Star Wars. Too late, but we'll maybe do a series with Cal Kestis or Vader series. Who knows? I don't think anyone cares at this point. I really want the Dogma 4K. I just picked up the Galaxy Quest 4K. I got the Galaxy Quest 4K and the Dogma 4K last month, but I didn't buy the Steelbook. I just bought the regular 4K of it, but it's back there. Krull is one of my favorite movies. Yes, and it's not on 4K, at least last time I checked. Last time I checked, the best you could get was Blu-ray. Maybe that's different now. It may have released. Another one that I don't understand why Arrow hasn't put it out in 4K yet is Big Trouble in Little China. Best you can get is Blu-ray. There's no 4K of it out there. Hot dogs or burgers, man. Burgers. Every now and again, I want a hot dog. Every day, I could eat a burger. But a hot dog, just every now and again. Every now and again, I'll get a hankering for a hot dog, and I'll go down to Sonic and get me the foot-long coney with the chili all over it. Very rare, though. Because, God, that gives me magic powers. Good God. That gives me magic powers like you wouldn't believe. When did video games start holding your hand difficulty-wise? I think that started in the middle of the PS4 generation. As kind of a reverse... it was when all of this woke stuff started happening. Because that's when you had people complaining about how FromSoft games didn't have difficulty levels in them. And so as this kind of reverse rubber banding backlash against... FromSoft games being too hard, you started seeing games where you had the cinematic difficulty level where basically all you had to do was like, run and press square and you'd win because you only cared about the story. And then that led to games where you didn't even have to beat it on the hardest difficulty to get the platinum. You could play it on the easiest, I only care about the story difficulty and still get the platinum. And all of it started when people started complaining about there not being multiple difficulty levels in FromSoft games. It was around when Bloodborne came out, so when they started bitching about that. So around what, 2014, 2015? Yeah, it's been going on for about 10 years. PS2 was so successful because it wasn't about money, it was about creativity stuff and then get away with and stuff, cool game. It had a tremendous library, and here I am, I probably only got about another 10, 15 years of life left to me, and so many of those experiences that I haven't gotten to play. Anyway, do you think Smash Brothers should add Erica Kirk as a character? My dream pizza is a meat lovers with the addition of banana peppers. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. I remember the Sekiro easy mode discourse. Yes. God bless ice. Yeah, it does great for keeping my soda cool. Love ice. Had ice in my cup of Coke Zero that I just finished drinking. I'm okay with adding an easy mode to every game so long as it's called game journalist mode. Elden Ring is the easiest game, by the way. Platinum Elden Ring, best game of all time. I have Elden Ring. I just haven't played it because I'm not that big into those games. Not because of the difficulty. I get I get how to play them. I get that. But for me, the combat feels slow. And I realize that there are ways to build exploits where you can like two-shot bosses in those types of games, and you can take advantage of these exploits and whatnot. But otherwise, you're taking these tiny little increments of the life bar off, and you get these battles that just take forever, and everything just feels slow to me. I don't like I like game combat, 3D combat that's more like old school God of War. That's what I like. Don't sell yourself short, you'll live. No, I won't. No, I got too much wrong with me. And no male member on my side of the family has lived past 62. Except for my father's grandfather, who lived to be 95. But he was like over 6 feet and he weighed about 170 pounds. I'm 5'8" and I weigh over 300 pounds. There's no way for me. It's not going to happen. I'm already like in pain all the time. I hurt all the time. It's only a matter of time before some of that turns into stuff that I'm not going to walk away from. It's just a matter of time. It is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. And then there's other things that I have to be concerned with too. Whether I'm going to be able to go the distance during that time and stay with the company that I'm at for those last remaining 10 years, or if I'm going to end up being forced into early retirement because, my job gets replaced by either foreign contractors or AI. So I have to hope that I can stay employed at my current job at least long enough for 8th to get out of college and get to working as in his mechanical engineering field, so that if I get let go because of that, I can I'm going to end up having to retire early and take a huge cut on Social Security, which Social Security is going to be ruined by like 2035 anyway, or start bouncing from work at home contract job to work at home contract job to help 8th make ends meet by, doing like contract job technical support for like $20 an hour. That my future's not looking all that bright, y'all. The only way I could get out of that would be if I was able to actually live my dream career that I wanted to live and be successful as a novelist. And at this late in my life, when I already tried that and nobody cared, nah, nah. Rob tried to talk me into writing another novel after he read my book, and he's like, you put this down? No, you need to pick it back up. You're good. You need to write. And I'm, yeah, it does. The thing about writing, you could write the best book in the world, but if only 100 people read it, what does it matter? What does it matter? I tell you what, it don't. It don't. Well, Danny, you can try to play those games with me, but I mean, I've never hidden the fact that whereas, I'm apolitical in the fact that I don't vote, and I think every politician, including Republican politicians, are corrupt as hell, and that's why I don't vote. I also lean conservative, so you're not really getting a gotcha on me there. Hardest platinum all achievements game, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is one of them. I beat that game, but I never bothered to plat it. I watched the Criterion. It's a mad, mad, mad world the other night. I love that movie. I think I've only seen it once, and that was when I was a little kid. I do know that that was one of Billy's favorite movies. That's that's about to the extent of what you'll hear me talk about that particular topic anymore because of the things that I deleted my previous stream over. But yeah, that was one of his favorite movies. He used to talk about it all the time. My quickest platinum was the Order 18. Oh yeah, that's an easy one. The Order 1886 was an easy one. AI bubble starting to burst. We'll see. I'm going to try to get into Arc Raiders. Yeah, my condolences. I remember hearing Shokio being extremely confident that Order 1886 was going to be a great game, and his Sony reports 1.1 billion lost video tackling Sony fanboys and N4G. It is a great game. It's just, it could have been a lot greater. It had great graphics, great story, tremendous acting. The gameplay itself was fine. There just wasn't enough of it in there. Thoughts on the Tales of series? I like the Tales of series, although I still haven't played Tales of Arise because it's still upstairs in 8th room. Never gotten to play it. I should rewatch it, you mean? I should rewatch It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World? I've always wanted to write a book, but it feels like everything has been done. That's another thing. See, I originally planned the book that I did publish as a trilogy. But when only 100 people, it was like 100 or 200 people, I can't remember now, it's been 20 years ago. But when, barely anybody read the book, okay? I didn't bother to write the other two. So it ends on a cliffhanger. A 20-year-old cliffhanger. I decided if I ever was going to write another book, it was for an idea that I had that was a fictional story that would have been based on my early teenage years, like say around age 12 or 13. But fictionalized. And it was going to have to do with me and my friends getting wrapped up in this secret society thing and how that ended up getting tied into cosmic horror and all this weird stuff. And, I had an outline for it. I had all the characters set up for it. I wrote a few introductory chapters that kind of was mostly world building, setting up a link to FDR's New Deal and the Tennessee Valley Authority and the flooding of the original Harrison Valley and all that stuff. And so, there was a lot of actual history and research that I did for it and everything. And then Stranger Things came out. And it was about a bunch of, 12 and 13-year-olds dealing with government conspiracies instead of secret society conspiracies and a bunch of cosmic horror. And I'm like, if I bring out my book now, everyone's going to say that I'm trying to rip off Stranger Things when I've been slowly working on this 10 years before that show came out. And so I just, you know, threw it all away. I deleted it all. Because what was the point? I'm not going to write it if people are just going to accuse me of ripping off something that I started writing it 10 years before it came out. And I think it really would have been an excellent book. Because, you know, it would have had, I mean, when I was writing it before Stranger Things came out, I was afraid that if anyone accused me of ripping anything off, they would tell me that I was ripping off Stephen King's It. Because, you know, it's a bunch of barely teenage kids getting wrapped up in cosmic horror type stuff. The difference is that mine was going to be tied into a whole secret society thing. So, you know, it starts out like it's going to be kind of you think it's going to be almost a Scooby-Doo like thing. Like, who is it really? Pull the mask off. Oh, it's old Mr. Withers. But it ends up that's not what it is. And it ends up having direct ties to, like, you know, Cthulhu type, H.P. Lovecraft type stuff. You know, a little of the satanic, a little of the cosmic horror type shit. Not Pennywise, you know, something totally different, but looped through this whole secret society. And the whole idea behind that is that me and my friends actually did have run-ins with a secret society when I was a kid. Because my neighborhood was built right next to one of their lodges. In fact, the main road that led to my neighborhood was named after their secret society. And me and my friends were always sneaking through the woods to get onto their property, and so we were always having run-ins with them. And there was always, and you know, that whole area had weird stuff. Like they had like these weird altars built behind their lodge building that had like these demonic-looking little owls and shit on it. And you know, they had an old abandoned house back on the other side of the woods. It looked like a house that was built in the 50s, and it was absolutely packed full, floor to ceiling, with old-ass TVs and radios. We're talking like 50s and 60s era TVs. And just weird stuff like that. Whole property was weird like that. And we were always like running into them and having confrontations with them, and them trying to, you know, strong arm our parents about us being on the property and stuff. And so there was a foundation in reality that I was going to work into this story. And then here comes Stranger Things. And I was like, nope. And I mean, I've talked to you guys a lot about how I used to write. When I was in high school and college, I was known for my short stories. I did a lot of short story writing. But, you know, I've never made it a secret to you guys that I wrote, that I was a writer. But none of y'all have ever, you know, expressed any interest in reading any of my shit. So, you know, I've just left it alone. But if there was anything that I could do that I knew was going to be a success, that would be something to kind of protect me from the coming changes in society as far as like jobs and whatnot, it would be to spend, you know, the last 10 years that I have writing books. That's what I would do if I had my way. But in this day and age, I just don't think there'd be an audience for me out there. I don't think I'd make near enough to actually live off of it, you know. So it is what it is. What are your thoughts on the last season? I didn't watch it. I watched one episode of it, and I'm like, this is just going to be the anti-Trump season, and I just turned it off. You know, they started recycling ideas with the whole Saddam Hussein Satan bit, you know, and I'm like, all right, you know, they've jumped the shark. I ain't watching this shit no more. The Order 1886 had a lot of potential. Yes, it did. Sorry, I have a kid in my arm. I think it's free on YouTube at the moment. Okay. Order 1886 has the best looking lamp. Turned out to be a tech demo for graphics for PS4 And yet console fanboys are trying to say that, well, I thought it was a very good game. It just didn't have enough combat in it. You know, if it had a multiplayer mode, it probably would have gone over a lot better. But also, it needed to be about 5 hours longer than it was. What was the name of that He-Man game you were looking for? It's just, you know, I don't know the full name of it, but just look up Masters of the Universe PS2. You'll find it. There's only one of them made for PS2. Damn 7th, I don't like the N64, but you got to admit the new analog 3D N64 looks badass. I don't need it. I have the N64 module for my Polymega. I haven't even unwrapped it and opened it up. It's sitting under here somewhere. Is this it? Let's see if this is it. Is this the one? No, that's the Mega Drive one. That's the Genesis one. Is it this one? Nope, that's the Super Nintendo one. Shit. You watch. 8th will have put it on the very bottom. Yeah, that's the TurboGrafx one. Son of a bitch. Alright, yep. 8th put it on the very bottom. 8th. You're killing me, son. You're killing me. You're killing your daddy. You're killing your daddy. I have never even opened it. It was one of the last big things that I received from Polymega, and I haven't even set it up. So y'all are going to get to see me unbox this bitch. The only way that I would devote time to writing that book is if I knew without a doubt that there was going to be a lot of people that bought it. That's the only way that I would finish it. Well, not finish it. I have to start over because I destroyed all the materials I had. Anyway, here it is. Here is the module for the N64. See if I can get it open here. These boxes are very, very hard to get open because of how there's not a whole lot of space between the top part and the bottom part. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. Look at there. Polymega N64 controller. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice. Thought you might find that intriguing. And then, in case you wanted to see what this looks like, here's what the module looks like. You slide one off, and then you slide this one on. That's all there is to it. You know, supports 4 players. Got four jacks there. You can use original N64 controllers on it if you want. Polymega is really cool, man, but you know, you pay for it. You pay for it. It's quality, but it ain't cheap. You know, I don't know how much the analog 64 costs, but these modules are like close to $200 a piece. At this point, I've spent over $1,000 with tax and shipping and everything for this Polymega unit. But I love it. I love it. It's really nice. I love the menu system. I love the heads-up display and all that. The only module I haven't bought for it are the light guns. Write a cheesy horror book. Well, again, if I thought I had a big enough audience that would actually buy it to where, you know, it would be all right if I could even make just enough off of it just to pay off my bills. You know, not to live off of, but just pay off the bills where I could afford to live off less. I'd be happy with that. If I could write, if I could put out like, a book of 20 short stories, like 20 twisted tales. If I knew that enough people were going to buy it to where, I'd make, 25 grand off of it, I'd do it. But I don't have an audience that big. I just don't. And I don't have a reputation as a writer where I could go on, for example, GoFundMe and say, I need money to publish a book. No one's going to contribute to that. I couldn't do a Kickstarter because no one knows me as a writer. They know me as what few people know me as a YouTuber. And I'm not big enough of a YouTuber where I could say, hey guys, I'm starting a Kickstarter to write a book. There wouldn't be enough people to buy copies of it. Wouldn't happen. So there's no point. There's no point. Because, you make a video, hardly anybody watches it, who cares? You spend a year writing a book and nobody reads it, what was the point of writing it? And I have a book that I wrote 20 years ago that less than 500 people read it. Every single person that did read it loved it, or at least they told me they loved it. They could have just been fans of me and were kissing my ass. But they love, I never got a negative review on that book. Never. It is what it is. When was the last time you were legitimately angry? I got angry at my boss a few weeks ago. But a lot of that was due to, I was having a bad diabetes day and my sugar was off. And I just kind of flew off the handle, lost control a little bit and flew off the handle at him. He understood. He knew what it was, but, Sometimes if my sugar goes off balance, I can be on edge to where, I'll lose my temper over things. Not like violent lose my temper, but just, oh, shut the fuck up. That kind of thing. Yeah, y'all didn't expect that. Live unboxing of a Poly Mega module. I do love my Poly Mega. I really wish that I would stream more. As I spend all this money on this thing and I'm not streaming with it, and I have all of that set up, But then again, every time I do that, only 14 of you show up to watch it. One idea I have is a Civil War story with the two protagonists become as before the war, basic North and South meets Attack on Titan. Well, to give you an idea, one of my short stories that I wrote years ago was called Etchings. And it was about, of course, I never sold this to a magazine or anything. So I know that, it doesn't matter if one of y'all rips my idea off. It ain't going to... But anyway, it's called Etchings, and it was about a girl whose hobby was she'd go to old cemeteries and she'd do charcoal etchings of tombstones, which is where you put a piece of paper over it and you take a piece of charcoal chalk and you go like this, and then you have like, a sort of recreation of the tombstone on paper. And that was her hobby. And she would take those and turn it into art and sell it and whatnot. So she finds out, she goes to this one cemetery she's never been to before, and she sees this kind of isolated, run-down cemetery sectioned off in the back with an old willow tree hanging over it, and there's like a old wrought iron fence that's been put around this one specific section of the cemetery, and it's got a chain on it trying to block you from getting in. And she asks one of the caretakers about it. She's like, and won't explain, just says, oh, that section's not open to the public. And so she ends up sneaking in there at night, and she does first charcoal etching for that. Uh, does one of them and sneaks out and goes home. A few days later, she's watching the news, and there was a guy she sees on the news where there was a guy that went nuts in a fast food restaurant and jumped over the counter and started killing the people working behind the counter. Dunked one of them into the frying grease and that kind of stuff. Just killed a bunch of people, and the cops eventually showed up, shot him, and it struck her as kind of odd. There was something that was kind of giving her kind of a deja vu vibe, but she couldn't quite place it, and so she goes back to that cemetery that night. She does another etching. And 2 days later, she sees another story on the news about some other dude that went nuts, killed a bunch of people. And again, she has this weird deja vu. She goes back and looks at her etchings, and the names of the people that are going nuts are the same names of the people that she's doing these charcoal etchings of in this cemetery. So then she finds out that this cemetery was a cemetery full of rapists and murderers and killers that tried to overtake that town, 200 years ago when it was just a little Old West style town. And they didn't want these people. These people were so despicable. They didn't want them buried with the rest of the good Christian folk, and so they put them in this section in the back, away from everybody, and blocked off with chain link or whatever, old wrought iron. And she gets to thinking, she's terrified, but at the same time she's fascinated, and she begins to think that maybe this is fate, and that these namesakes, these people with the same names, on the inside are evil people, and all she's doing is waking that evil up, so that then, even though it results in several innocent people being killed, that they're being removed from history before they're given the chance of doing something really bad, like a 9/11 or something like that. And so she keeps doing it. And you keep seeing all these people that she's doing these charcoal etchings of going mad, killing a bunch of people, and then getting shot dead by cops over and over again. And so finally, there's only one left. And she goes out there, sneaks out, kneels down in front of it, turns on the flashlight, and it's her own name. And she looks at it, and she looks at it, and she looks at it, and then the story ends with her picking up the piece of paper and starting to etch. Anyway, I wrote that short story 30 years ago, never got it published anywhere. I had probably over 100 short stories that I had in folders for years. Finally threw them all away when I moved to North Carolina. Or more correctly, my ex-wife threw them all away. But I had binders full of short stories that I'd written from the time that I was in high school all the way up through past college that I never was able to get published anywhere, because it got to the point where no one wanted to become an agent for an unpublished author, and none of the magazines that would publish short stories wanted anything from an unpublished author. No matter how good it was, they wouldn't even read it. So, yeah. Oh well. What's your favorite Undertaker match? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. The cordoned off part of the cemetery reminds me of this one U.S. military cemetery in Europe that has a restricted section that has all the executed soldiers. That might have been where I got the idea for it, that, because that was something that used to happen a lot, for example, in like Civil War era cemeteries. I know life is too hectic for it on your end, but I feel like it'd be cool for you to write again. Doesn't even need to be commercial stuff, just short stories like that. I'll tell you another one that I wrote. I won't tell you how it ends. That one I just basically told you the groundwork of the whole story. But one of the ones that I wrote was called The Mind Wonders, and it was about this yuppie who wakes up one day and he's going through his morning routine, getting ready to go to work, and he happens to kind of glance down out his bathroom window while he's brushing his teeth, and he sees the manhole cover in front of his driveway move. And so at first he doesn't pay a whole lot of mind to it because he thinks that, maybe the city's just out there doing some maintenance down in the sewer or something. And so he goes about his day, his preparation to go to work. He gets dressed and everything, has his quick breakfast, goes out, gets in his car, and starts his car up, letting it warm up, looks in his rearview mirror, and that manhole cover at the end of his driveway is lifted up, and he can see a pair of eyes staring out at him from underneath that manhole cover. And that freaks him out. So he gets out of his car, and he goes down there, and gets down on his hands and knees and looks this thing in the eye, and it looks like an old hobo. An old hobo, hair long, scraggly beard, doesn't look like he shaved him forever, and it's just staring at him. And he's like, "What's your effing problem?" Blah, blah, blah. And the thing just starts making this noise at him. This tick-tock clicking tongue noise at him. Not talking to him, just doing that. And looking right at him, not even blinking. It freaks him out. And he's like, "You don't get out of there, I'm calling the cops." And he grabs a hold of that manhole cover and lifts it off like that. And that head comes crawling up out of the manhole on little spider legs and starts chasing him. And it freaks him out, and he goes running next door to his neighbor's house across the street. And his neighbor's like a full-on conservative hillbilly redneck type. House is full of guns and whatnot. And here comes this thing trying to get into the house, this head on legs. And they're trying to fight it off, and it's crawling up into the ductwork and everything. And he's kind of like a dude from the Tremors movies. He's got a whole arsenal in the house. So he's pulling down pump-action shotgun, and he's blowing holes in his own roof trying to kill this thing. And the thing gets the redneck. And so Hero goes running out of the house. And next thing you know, he goes trying to find someone else on the street. He's trying to call the cops on his cell phone, but he's not getting any signal. He looks around, and now there's two of them. There's the hobo, and there's his friend. And his friend has now become one of these spider head things. And they're both chasing after him. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. That's all I'm going to tell you about it. It was called The Mind Wonders. I wrote one that was called The Tailor, and it was about a loner kid in high school. Father had died when he was very young. His mother was trying to raise him. She was a seamstress. She barely made ends meet, She had taught him how to sew, and a lot of his clothes were like hand-me-downs or things that she had made himself, so he was constantly getting picked on and made fun of at school. And there was one particular bully that was always really giving him a hard time and whatnot. And one day he's walking down the sidewalk, and he's in their little small town shopping area downtown, Main Street type thing. And he walks by and he sees a maroon members only jacket in the window, which of course at this point members only jackets hadn't been cool in years. They were completely out of style, but he liked it. He didn't care how old and out of style it was. He needed a coat, and he liked the look of it, and but he didn't have the money for it. His mom surprises him because she knows he wants it so bad. She ends up buying it for him for his birthday or something. And so he proudly wears it to school that day, and he's so happy with his members only jacket. And this particular bully snatches him up by the back of his neck for that jacket and drags him back under the bleachers and pulls out a butterfly knife and just slices his new jacket all to hell, just tears it up. And after years of being bullied by this person, because this kid had been bullying him since grade school, uh, he's just completely devastated. And he comes home and he tells his mom what happened, and his mom is all upset. And next thing you know, she has a stroke and she dies. And so now, he's going to end up being put in foster care. His life is over. It's ruined, etc., etc. And all he feels left anymore is hatred for the kid that tore up his jacket and inadvertently caused his mother to have a stroke and die. And so he decides to put his skills that his mother trained him as a seamstress to work. And he goes and kills that kid, skins him, and makes a new jacket out of the kid's skin. And he's still wearing it when they cart him off to the juvie loony bin. And it was called The Tailor. That one I actually submitted to this annual creative writing publication that my high school had. That was called Pen Strokes. And whereas they had always published my stuff before, they refused to publish that one because they felt that it was bordering too close on school shooting type shit. And they felt that it would inspire violence if they published it, and that it was too dark and whatnot. And so that one didn't get published. Before that, I'd written one. Hi, Jude. How's it going? I'd written one before that did get published in Pen Strokes, and that one was kind of similar to the book that I've been wanting to write now. It was a bunch of kids that were friends. These were a little bit older than the book. Maybe we're talking like maybe 10, and messing around in the woods, which was common for Gen X, for friends to just go wandering around in the woods with the parents having no idea where they were at or what they were doing. With black bears and copperheads and everything else roaming around in there with them. And one of them is stepping over some brush and falls through a hole and ends up landing inside this dark room. And they get to looking around, and they realize that they're, again, it was semi-based on reality, that they're very close adjacent to the abandoned government munitions plant. And so here's this room that was clearly part of some kind of a underground bunker. And they find this really ancient looking box down there. And it ends up being like, the book never comes out and says it, but it ends up basically being Pandora's box. And the gist of it is that as long as you have it, anything you wish for will happen for you. But you can't ever open it. No matter what you do, don't open it. And so it follows along with these kids, and they're all taking turns using it. But eventually they start killing each other off until there's only one of them left. And that one ends up becoming kind of a Bill Gates, Elon Musk billionaire type, living in his ivory tower of commerce and technology. And he has everything he could ever want. He's achieved everything that he could ever possibly achieve. Without being like the president or a king, he's the most powerful man on the planet. And it finally gets to the point where he can't take it anymore, and he opens the box. And I'm not going to tell you what happens. But yeah, I always wrote like the fantastical or horror, or sometimes I'd write comedy stories. Now the book that I wrote, it is a fantasy novel, but it's a comedy. And in fact, several years ago, I actually read several chapters of it live on the 7thCast. Many years ago. And at the time, I thought, screw it. I'm just going to read the whole book to this on the 7thCast live, and I'm going to do like a couple of chapters a night until I've read the whole book. But people seem to not be all that interested in it, so I stopped doing it. But the only person to have sat and read the whole thing from cover to cover in the last 20 years has been Rob. Order 42, and he really liked it, and to this day still encourages me to pick the pen up and start writing again. But I'm not going to do it if the same thing happens again and there's only 100 people that actually reads the damn thing. Sounds like Junji Ito stories. I'll take that. I appreciate the compliment. I like this story. I'm glad you do. Make a cool horror movie. Suffering from success. I love tales like that. Yeah, well, that's definitely one of them. But those were the kind of stories I wrote. I love my favorite Stephen King stories when I was a kid, because Stephen King, Dean Koontz, and Clive Barker. Those were my favorite authors back then. And my favorite Stephen King stories were the ones where just totally batshit stuff happens and there's no explanation for it at all. Like the guy that got the story Gray Matter, where the guy got some contaminated beer and it turned him into a big gray blob, or the one where guy keeps hearing this noise and he goes into his bathroom and there's a finger sticking out of the sink of the bathroom and it's scratching the linoleum with its fingernail. And it's never explained where that finger comes from or what it's doing there. Those are my favorite Stephen King stories, where it was just something insane is happening and it's never explained what causes it. And so that's the kind of short stories I tended to write. Was I never explain why doing a charcoal etching of this person causes a person with the same name to die horrifically. I never explained that. I explained the link that all these people were murderers and rapists that were buried there, but I don't explain how doing a charcoal etching is causing a person with the same name to go nuts and kill a bunch of people and die. I never explain it. I never explain where these spider heads are coming from. I explain how new ones are created, but I don't explain where it all started from. I don't explain how Pandora's box ended up in a military bunker in the woods of Tennessee. I never explain that. It's just weird crap happens, deal with it. Those are my short stories. Oh, and anyway, this happened while I was talking about that. We now have not actually 1 hour remaining, but about a half hour remaining, and we've only had a single $7 donation. So 3 hours is probably what's going to happen again tonight. Stephen King shaped a lot of my taste in horror and supernatural. That's something I feel a lot of stories in media are lacking. Mystery leaves stuff unexplained. Yeah, I was a big proponent of that. I was a big fan of not showing how the trick is done. Just leaving it to the imagination, leaving you to sit and ponder about it and try to come up with your own explanations of what actually happened. That's now, of course, the Taylor was a little bit different. It was the Taylor was kind of like my own take on his Richard Bachman story, Rage, which was about a guy taking his classroom hostage. The Taylor was like my approach to that type of story. And it was based, not on me, but it was based on a kid that I knew at my school who was mentally unhinged, and he was always getting in trouble for bringing weapons to the school and talking about things that he was gonna do, and then he'd be picked up by the cops and taken. Never got expelled for it, but I mean, he'd come to school with a bag full of nunchucks and throwing stars and crap, over and over again. I don't remember his full name. His first name was Ben. Road Dahl's Tales of the Unexpected. Yeah. Yeah. Back when I was a kid, you had Tales from the Dark Side, and you had Ray Bradbury Theater. They also had a show back then that was called Tales of the Unexpected, but I don't think it was based on Road Dahl's stuff. But their stuff often felt less supernatural than watching like Ray Bradbury or Tales from the Dark Side. It was a lot drier. I almost think I want to say it was maybe a British show. I just remember that if they'd show it late at night, like after Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Unexpected would come on. That's the sound of my ice maker. Right next to this room is my kitchen. So I've got like a little window that looks in on the kitchen here. And if you're hearing that knock 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 noise, that's the ice maker of my refrigerator. Because there's two different ice makers in my refrigerator. There's the one that makes regular ice, and then there's one that makes these little round spherical ice cubes, these little globes. Because Eighth, when we went shopping for a refrigerator, he was like, I'd kind of like to have those kind of ice cubes. And I was like, you're going to make me spend 300 more than any other refrigerator on this row because you want round ice cubes? And he's like, yes. I said, okay. Okay. But what I'm going to do next month is there's like this home warranty thing that you can get that's like $85 a month, and it covers everything on the inside of the house. So if the refrigerator dies, they just get you a new one and bring it, which I think is pretty awesome. You know, I'm willing to pay $85 a month if it means I don't have to pay $15,000 when this air conditioner dies. I'll pay that gladly. So yeah, I'm doing that next month because it covers the air conditioner, it covers your washer dryer, it covers your microwave, it covers everything inside the house. It don't cover your. I don't think it covers your. It'll cover your water heater, but I don't think it covers your actual pipes or anything. But yeah, it covers all your appliances and stuff. And so if it goes out, they just bring you a new one. It's like $80 something a month. I would gladly pay that. Ice cubes are ice cubes. I agree. But I've got the one, I've got the normal one where you've got the little notch in the front door and you stick your glass under it and it drops cubes in there. I got that. And then you've got the other one where you have to actually open it up and there's a tray there on the shelf and you pull the tray out and it's full of these little round bowling ball looking ice cubes. Is that just down in your part of the U.S.? No, I think there are companies out there that offer home warranties like that. And it's not an extended warranty. They call it a home warranty. And you pay it every month, and it protects basically your property on the inside of the house. And so, if your refrigerator goes out, they replace your refrigerator. If your stove dies, they replace your stove. If your dishwasher dies, your water heater dies, your air conditioner dies, etc., etc., etc. And this one is actually through the one that I'm talking about now. It's actually provided through the company that my mortgage is through. So you're basically just paying an extra $85 a month on your mortgage, and it protects all the crap in your house. I mean, there's multiple companies that offer it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go through the one that my actual mortgage company recommends, because then I get like discounts and crap. Need to get that for my mother-in-law because their AC is getting sad and old. My AC is 17 years old. This house is 17 years old. The air conditioner's never been replaced. So, I mean, I'm not having any problems with it. It's working fine, but I imagine eventually it's going to go out. And so that's why I want to get that stuff next month. Because then if it goes out, they're just going to come out and put a whole new unit in. And I'm not going to have to pay, $15,000 to have, a new furnace and a new AC unit outside and all that stuff. HVAC. Yeah, that stuff is expensive here in the States. I don't know how. Of course, I don't think in the UK it's a regular thing to have central heating and air, is it? It's like at the most, don't y'all just have like, ceiling fans and those window units or something? Old school radiators. Seems to me, that's one of the things I hear from the Brits all the time is that it's so shocking for us to come to the United States and see central heating and air in every house. Oh, brother! I got Hulk Hogan in the trunk. Brother! Central heating, but not AC. Wow. This is my my little flux capacitor thing that I've never hung up on the wall. I don't know why I've never hung it up on the wall, but I've never hung it up on the wall. It's still in this little wrapper that it came in. I'm in California at the moment. We're moving to Texas in a couple of months. What part of Texas are you moving to? There we go. I finally opened it. Flux capacitor. I'll hang it up on the wall eventually. Someday. Maybe. Oh, man. Near San Antonio. Like south of San Antonio or north of San Antonio? Like San Marcos? Somewhere around in there. I considered moving to San Antonio when I was looking for a house to buy, but I decided that I would rather risk being a little too close to a tornado, every May, than running the risk of flooding and higher crime. So that's why I stayed away from San Antonio, because actually the houses in San Antonio were cheaper than the house that I bought here. I could have gotten New Braunfels. Okay, so north of San Antonio, the in and around the San Marcos area. New Braunfels is actually one of the early. There's an early episode of the Chasers that takes place in that town, and they're talking like where the hell is New Braunfels? Who ever heard of New Braunfels? That's that episode. So you're moving to that wide spot in the road, which. I live in a wide spot in the road that they never talked about and was never in an episode as far as I know. But I live north of Austin, not north of San Antonio. But yeah, I could have bought a bigger house for less money in San Antonio, but I stayed away because of the crime and the flooding problems down there. Because San Antonio is a lot more like Florida, whereas where I live now is kind of like middle Georgia. The part of Texas I'm living in now, it reminds me a lot of like Covington, Georgia, or McDonough, Georgia, a little ways south of Atlanta, where it's just a bunch of pine trees and rednecks, That's what this area is. It reminds me of that. Or reminds me of like, not downtown Chattanooga, but Red Bank or Soddy Daisy, that's what this area is like. But you get down like San Antonio and whatnot, you get more of the heat, and you get your palm trees. So it's a lot like living in Florida. I mean, if you've lived in San Antonio, you've basically lived in any part of Florida that's like Orlando and south. But there's a greater risk of floods. You're more likely to get the offshoots of a hurricane in San Antonio if a hurricane hits Texas. Usually if a hurricane hits Texas, it bowls over Houston, then curves upwards towards San Antonio, and then by the time it gets to where I'm at, it's fizzled out and turned into a thunderstorm. For the most part. Now, the area that I've moved to is at the very, very bottom tip of Tornado Alley. And wouldn't you know it, 2 days before I move in, this town got hit by a tornado, but it was only an F1. and it did some damage like a couple of miles east of here. The tornado didn't actually hit my neighborhood, but my neighborhood got hit by straight line winds prior to the tornado touching down on the other side of the freeway and tearing up a bunch of businesses and a few houses. So there were some houses here where they had roof damage and the power was knocked out. You know, some of them had not whole roofs ripped off, but sections of their roof ripped off. And but my house was unscathed. There's no damage to my house at all because my house sits at the edge of the beginning of a cul-de-sac, and so the wind was blowing from the west to the east, and so all those houses in the cul-de-sac took the brunt of it and basically blocked the wind from touching my house. And so my house, the only damage that I took is there was like a El Cheapo plastic shed from like Home Depot or something in the backyard from the previous owner, and that got blown down by the straight line winds. Other than that, no damage to my house at all. No damage to the roof, didn't lose a single roof tile, nothing. But normally, going back, it was the first tornado that had hit Temple in like 70 years. There had been ones that touched down close to Temple, but where my neighborhood is, 71 years, the closest one had come was like 5 miles. And that was the one that there's like some kind of a like a resort. There's like a resort on the lake up there. And back in 1997, a tornado hit that resort and tore up some boats. Didn't kill anybody, but it tore up some boats. And that was the last time that anything had come even close to this neighborhood, where this neighborhood is. And up until 2024, when that one hit, a couple of miles down the street. But now they say that Tornado Alley is shifting to the east. And that's why you're seeing fewer and fewer tornadoes in central Texas and more tornadoes hitting in Louisiana and Alabama, Mississippi and Tennessee and Georgia, because they say that Tornado Alley is slowly shifting to the east. I ain't going to complain about it. I don't mind. It's so hot down there. I wasn't prepared for it you're going to have, Texas is hot all over for most of the year. Every now and again, every 3 or 4 years, they'll have a cold spell where we'll either get an ice storm or we'll get actual snow. But for the most part, even during the wintertime, it's like in the high 50s. But especially so if you move up where Jay and all them live in the DFW area, because they're one of the most likely to get snow in central Texas. Uh-oh, here comes 8th.
I will be back.
Where are you going?
Gotta return something from Walmart.
Oh, yeah, okay. Be safe out there, yo. He bought replacement windshield wipers for his car, and he got one of them home and realized that he had picked one up that didn't come with the actual assembly to put it on the car. So he's taking that back to Walmart and swapping it out. Ever since 8th started doing the whole mechanical engineering thing, he's been teaching himself automotive maintenance and repair. And so now it's like, things go bad with our cars. Like if my battery goes dead, he recharges it. If one of my tires is low on air, he refills it. He swaps out his own filters. He does his own oil changes. He's becoming he's getting ready to do a bunch of modding to his car. Not Rice Racer type stuff. None of that. But he's getting ready to do some upgrades to his car. And so he's excited about that kind of thing. I'm glad you and Eighth are doing okay with all this crazy weather. Well, we've been living in Texas for next year will be 10 years. God, that's crazy. It doesn't feel like we've been here 10 years, but we have. It's been 10 years. 10 years that we've been in Texas. It doesn't feel, well, next year. It's been 9 years so far. That just is mind blowing to me. It doesn't feel like we've been here that long. That is insane. That is insane. But yeah, I mean, Texas is going to be hot no matter where you go, especially the farther west you go. Out west Texas, oh man, because that's all desert out there, man. That's all Dust Bowl desert. That's where you get to see those big, huge tornadoes that are like 2 miles wide. Yeah. You see those big ass monsters out there. And the only reason they're not considered like F5s is because there's not enough out there to do enough damage to qualify as an F5. But they're like, 2 miles wide. And they'll drop down and you just see this big, huge wedge. And that's all out west Texas. But yeah, of all the stuff, that's the only regret that I have about moving into this particular house is that, the higher likelihood of tornadoes being in and around here. But that being said, like I said, that was the first time in 71 years that one had actually touched down in town. Otherwise, they were always 5 to 10 miles away from us. So, everyone was kind of shocked that one actually hit around here because this area just wasn't known for it. That being said, it wasn't like what happened south of here. There's a town south of here that's like on the way to Austin. That same year in '97 that the resort a few miles north of us got hit. This town, that town that I'm talking about, that's south of here, got hit, and there was an entire neighborhood that all that was left were the concrete slabs. All the trees were ripped up, all the cars were torn to pieces, all the houses were destroyed. All that was left were the concrete slabs, and the people that lived there, they were having to identify them with teeth and stuff because they were literally ripped into little pieces. There was just chunks of people. There were no whole bodies. It was all chunks because it was effectively the strength of an F5, and it just sucked them out of their basements, what few had basements, because basements aren't a common thing in Texas, and just spun them up and ripped them into little pieces and scattered them all over the field. I don't remember the name of the town. Let's see, Texas town, 1997 tornado. What was the name of that town? Jarrell, Jarrell. And I mean, it didn't even look like an F5 when you saw it at first. I mean, it eventually got that big, but when it first appeared, it was just like this little skinny, rope tornado, and then it turned into this big ass wedge, and it just went right over that neighborhood and left nothing. And they've never rebuilt anything in that spot. They've just left it as an empty field. And yeah, it was considered one of the worst tornadoes in Texas history. And the damage and the death was next level stuff. And that one is like halfway between where I live now and halfway between where I did live outside of Austin, in a little town called Jarrell. That was 1997. It'll be 30 years ago next year. How crazy is that? But you see, nowadays it's getting to where that could happen literally anywhere. I mean, not so much on the West Coast, but anywhere from Central all the way to the East Coast, tornadoes everywhere. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, And the only places that you could be relatively safe from them have become places that you wouldn't want to live, like California, Oregon, Washington State. So yeah. Anyway, we got about 14 minutes left. 14 minutes left. There's only been a single $7 donation. We are $43 short of extending by an hour. Didn't even know that, huh, Jude? Yeah. I'm glad you and Ethan. I need to learn about that. Have to fix up my car. I'm looking forward to it. Well, welcome to the United States, Jude. Welcome to the United States, where the weather can strip the meat from your bones. I'm just saying. Hi, Shadow Deist. Do you believe the rumors of the new PlayStation handheld? I believe that they're going to attempt to compete with the Switch by having a handheld add-on component to the PS6. That's what I believe. I don't believe it'll have its own separate library like the PSP or the Vita. I think it'll play it'll play PS6 games, and it'll probably play backwards compatible digital ones that you have to pay for and download. That tornado just about wiped the entire town off the face of the planet. Yep. One of the few places that survived said tornado was in Albertsons. Yeah, it did some major damage. And, when I was looking for a place to live, one of the most affordable houses I found was in Gerald. And, I looked and saw that, that had happened there. And I was like, no, I won't move to Gerald. I'm going to keep looking farther north, not thinking that was actually getting me closer to Tornado Alley. But I looked at the particular town that I was moving to, and I was like, no tornadoes in 71 years. Okay. Seems like they just pass around us. And so I bought the house, and 2 days before I'm supposed to move in, boom. Do you think the PS6 will be delayed like the rumors say? I wouldn't doubt it unless, the AI bubble bursts and all these chip companies end up having to, eat crow and not devote so much of their product to these data centers they're trying to build. Now that the Portal streams games from your library and doesn't just play your PS5, it's actually kind of cool. Yeah, but here's the thing, Jude. I don't really need a handheld right now because I don't go anywhere. The only time I go anywhere is like to the movies, to the doctor, or to Retropalooza. So I'd only need a handheld once a year to go to Retropalooza. You get what I'm saying? So I don't really need a portal. I mean, okay, so I'd be able to continue playing my game while I go to take a dump. That'd be the only advantage to having the portal for me. And that's kind of gross because it's a touch screen. So no, I haven't bought a portal. 8th hasn't bought a portal. Just don't need it. Is it true that jobs can fire you if you haven't violated policy? Well, most companies in the United States, most states in the United States are what's called right to hire states, which means that companies don't have to have a reason to let you go. The only thing that determines is whether or not you can file for unemployment. As opposed, being laid off as opposed to being fired or quitting. But most states in the union are right to hire states, so they don't have to have any kind of particular reason for saying, yeah, we don't want you here anymore. Bye. Hold up, is it snowing in Texas? Really? It's not snowing here. Might be snowing elsewhere in Texas, like up in the Panhandle, but it's not snowing here. Our temperature did get down to freezing again last night. But there was no precipitation, so it was just a dry cold. 10 minutes left, folks. 10 minutes left, and $43 short of extending the show by an extra hour. Oh. You see how straight my nose is? See that? Like it looks almost unnaturally straight. It's just a. You know why that is? That's because when I was in the 4th grade, I got accidentally headbutted by a dwarf during recess. And he broke my nose, and I got taken to the ER. And they didn't think it was broken. They just thought he didn't. They just thought that he had bruised it real bad. But of course, it was broken, and it healed up crooked, so my nose was like this. And so my parents were like, "Well, obviously, we're going to have something done." But because of the fact that it healed back crooked, I had to have it reconstructed. So I don't know how they do it now, but back then, the way they'd reconstruct your nose is they'd put you under, they'd put a little block of, like a little tiny cinder block on top of your nose, they'd take a hammer, whack, and they'd re-break your nose, and then they'd put it back together the way it was supposed to be, and then they'd spray this liquid styrofoam stuff up your nose, both nostrils, that would then harden and keep it in place, and then they'd put a steel plate over it and tape that to your face with a little drip pad for all the blood to drain out around the stuff that had been, sprayed up your nose, so you couldn't breathe for 6 weeks. You were breathing out your mouth for 6 weeks with this drip pad dripping nastiness. And then after 6 weeks, you'd have to go back, and they'd actually the skin would start to grow around that stuff that had sprayed up in there. So they have to with no anesthetic, they'd stick a scalpel up both nostrils to loosen everything up in there, and then take tweezers and yank it out. Blood pour everywhere. I had blood all over my shirt. If my nose was on fire, it hurt. And because of that, they did such a good job that my nose now looks straighter than any nose should. It's just a straight line that goes yank. I look like I have the nose of a Seth MacFarlane cartoon character. Just yank. Anyway. My job is tripping. They trying to get rid of me for lurking by the cage, even though that's our work area. We were allowed to be there, and for gossiping, but none of those things are in the policy. Like I said, right to hire state. They don't need a reason. But if you give them a reason, it's even better for them, because then they feel they'll try to fight you for unemployment. I thought for a second you were going to say your nose was accidentally straightened up from that kid's head. No. I felt that just by imagining it. Have I been losing weight? No. Not as much as I'd want to be. Not as much as I'd want to be. I am in a lot of pain and very uncomfortable. That's why I'm constantly coming down like this, then sitting back like this, because if I sit like this for too long, my abdomen area, the middle of my chest starts to hurt. Because it's putting pressure on my stomach and all this other stuff. If I lean back like this to take the pressure off that, it starts to put pressure on my back. My back starts to hurt. So all the way through the 7thCast, I'm like constantly going back and forth when the pain gets too much for one or the other. Is what it is. Fat Gamer rebooted his channel into Nintendo. Oh, so it's not about grape and murder anymore, huh? Good for him. 5 minutes left, folks. 5 minutes left. No one's coming to save us tonight. Especially not $43 worth. Oh. I can always count on Darkstar to show up and send me $7. I'm looking at my mini feed that shows the donations, and his name is the only one that's still on there, because he's the only one that's donated consistently since the tabletop game table was fully funded. I'm being told to write a letter to HR to solve the problem. Well, okay then. Well, I mean, if I had to choose between being out of work and having to write HR a letter or doing a what they call a PIP, which is a personal improvement plan, I'd take the PIP rather than being out of work. I'm just saying. Swallow your pride, do what they ask, keep your paychecks coming. Thanks to my job, I'm now on blood pressure medication. Okay. I'm also being told not to call HR. It would make the problem worse. I've never cared for calling or speaking to HR. If there's a situation, I'll email them or they'll email me, and they give me what I asked for. I give them what they asked for, and that's it. Very rarely have I ever had to actually speak to HR. I just don't have those kind of problems. I rarely get to catch you live due to being caught up with home stuff. Glad I got to see you live this time and that you're doing well. I was worried with the whole snowstorm deal. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm doing well, but I mean, I'm alive. Like I said, I'm pretty much in misery all the time. I'm just fairly decent at coping with it. I have a fairly high tolerance for pain. That's not stuff like having your hand stepped on or that kind of thing. But when it comes to like you know the pain that comes from being diabetic, or the pain that comes from IBS, or the pain that comes from this or that kind of long enduring pain, I've developed tolerance for it. But I'm still always conscious of it and aware of it, which is why I've come up with these little coping mechanisms, like moving from being back here to moving to being up here, and then moving back and then moving front. I rarely get to see you live because of work. Know how that is. Eventually I want to get back to streaming twice a week, once for the 7thCast, once for retro game streaming. It's just for some reason, it's just, I sleep a lot, man. I get off work and half the time I fall asleep, and I'll wake up and it's an hour before I'm supposed to go to bed anyway. I don't know what's causing it. I get sleepy and I fall asleep a lot. Didn't used to happen. It's been like that maybe the last 6 months. Did you like this? Well, maybe longer than that. Maybe like the last year. Did you like the Superman film? Yeah, I liked it for what it was. Yeah. I mean, it felt like a Superman comic book. That's one thing you can say, that none of the Superman movies so far really felt like Superman comic book issues. But this movie did. I appreciate you coming to listen, Jude. I appreciate you coming to listen. Maybe next Wednesday I'll try to do some retro game streaming for a change. We'll see. Depends on how I'm feeling. Depends on how I'm feeling. Yup. Oh. Wait a minute. Magic powers. Hey, Jude, you're going to go to Retropalooza in May? I can't make it to the one in Houston in March, but I'm going to try to be the one up in DFW in May. And you'll be able to meet my old fat ass. What game would you stream? Just old retro stuff, NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx games. But it can't just be anything. It has to be one I actually own. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. We had one donation of $7 all night. We're $43 short of extending the show by 1 hour. So this is where I am going to have to part ways. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Jude. You ought to come. You'd have fun. But this is where I'm going to have to part ways. Be thinking about the stuff you want to ask me. If you want to post on Twitter, maybe recommend some topics to discuss, whatnot. It's not that much of a hassle to travel here, Jude, because you don't have to have any papers or anything to go from state to state, town to town. You just go on the freeway and go north. That's all you'd have to do is just get on I-35 north, go 3 hours, and you're in DFW. Snap, crackle, pop, easy. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I will see you guys next week. Same 7th time, same 7th channel.